Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing in chat? We have a very exciting stream for today. So we're going to be doing some viewer submitted VODs. So if you'll remember last week, I kind of requested that a bunch of people send me in VODs. So we've got, I think, 5 of them. Let me actually double check that. I think we have like 5 to review today.
Like 4 when I looked.
Well, I think it's like 4 videos and then 1 YouTube video. So we'll kind of try to see if we can get through most of them. Some of them are a little bit like longer games. I think we have basically like Hala, Dory, Olympia, and Phi as our games for today. So that should be fun. But anyways, I want to do a couple pre-stream announcements. So first and foremost, we have our spoiler video coming out this Wednesday, Thursday.
Thursday.
Is it Thursday or Wednesday?
Thursday.
It's Thursday. So yeah, that's going to be coming out this Thursday. We have I think a very exciting card. We also worked very hard on the spoiler video, so I think it will turn out pretty good. So that's the first announcement, and I welcome you all to speculate on what the card might be in chat. I know some people have gotten pretty close to maybe what the card could be, so feel free to speculate in chat to your heart's desire. In other announcements, we also were recently on the Steel Street Showdown. So that's our like Colorado locals, the Cog Crankers. I think they basically like run like a like paper fab like video series. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, that was a fun one. If you haven't watched the video, I encourage you all to go check that out as well. Are there any other announcements? Vegan? No. Okay.
No, not really.
Okay, yeah, I think it's fine. But anyways, with that out of the way, oh, actually, sorry, I did have one more announcement. We did actually have our first Marlin top 8, so it's very, very exciting.
At a calling.
At a calling, that's true. So very, very cool. Like a very different deck. So we're gonna actually be playing that deck list, I think, on like Wednesday-ish. But very, very unique deck list. So I'm looking forward to kind of playing it. It kind of like contradicts a lot of the Marlin assumptions that we've kind of like made up until now, which is really cool. Which either means that I think there's like a lot of like interesting like it feels almost like it's like a very medical deck, which we'll kind of like get into maybe a little bit more on Wednesday, but a lot of interesting things happening in the Marlin world, which is very exciting. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to get into the gameplay review. So I'm going to be basically taking a couple notes here to kind of just write down some thoughts on each game so we can like kind of do a recap at the end of the game. But we have 5 games basically today. We'll try to get through them as quick as possible here. Trying to think what else. Other than that, basically my frame of reference for these Marlin games is we're going to be like doing it basically for... We're assuming that we're playing basically like Nate's deck list, which is like kind of like the standard build of Marlin. I do think that with the Hamburg calling, basically, we kind of have to like rewire some of the assumptions about Marlin, which we'll kind of get into a little bit more on Wednesday. But I'm basically going to be like treating these games as if we're playing the deck list that's Nate's deck list, basically. The deck list that we've come to kind of know and love, which is like kind of like a little bit more of an aggressive Marlin. Do you have the @ for the person in the thumbnail? Wait, who's the person in the thumbnail? Oh, I think that's just Marlin.
Oh yeah, that's Marlin's face.
Yeah, that's just Marlin's face, I think. But yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and start the first VOD. So the first VOD, I think this is a Hala game. This is a little bit of a longer game. I would describe that top 8 deck as German. I think that's a good way to phrase it. I think that deck's really cool. So let's maybe talk about that deck for a second. I think that deck's really cool. We're going to play it on Wednesday. I think that deck, it's interesting because I think a lot of people have been inspired by that deck, which is really cool. Like a lot of people want to like pick up Marlin now. I do think that deck is like a very difficult deck to pilot, especially if you're like picking up Marlin for the first time. Like that deck is like very, very unforgiving in like a really interesting way. So I'd encourage you to try that deck list if you haven't already, but like you'll kind of see what I mean if you play a few games on it. Like basically the deck is like running Tar Pit Trap and stuff like that in like the main deck, which is really exciting. But yeah, the deck's really cool. We'll play it more on Wednesday. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the Marlin games for today. So first game is the Hala. I'm gonna go ahead and actually pause here. So okay, so this is kind of a little bit interesting. I typically actually treat Hala as a bit more of a tempo matchup. It kind of depends on what the Hala actually boards in. I order my decks. Sorry, hold on. I need to like pull up chat so I can read this a little bit better. I prefer my decks to be forgiving on bad. I think that's like the issue that a lot of people are going to run into. But so going first here, so we're playing against a hollow. We're going first. I actually kind of differ from Nate, I think, a little bit on this one, and I generally prefer going second into hollow, mainly so that I can run like Abyssal Quiver in case they're on like more of a fatigue plan, and then also just because I prefer running New Horizons in case they're on a clean 60. I think first is still fine. So we'll kind of see what they end up doing here. I do think. Hold on, let me actually double check Nate's deck list because this actually might be a New Horizons matchup. I don't know what Nate's latest guidance on this is. I think it's fine between Dominion and New Horizons. Let me actually check what Nate says. Hold on, I want to pull this up on the side so that I don't just kind of contradict Nate here. So let me pull Hala. All right, so the latest notes I have from Nate are that it's a New Horizons Honing Hood matchup, but Nate would probably know more than me. I generally prefer Honing Hood and New Horizons. Let me actually see what his latest is, actually. Let's take a look at this. All right, Nate's still on New Horizons for this matchup, which is kind of interesting. But anyways, I think this is actually like a spot where you probably want to actually run New Horizons over Crown of Dominion. I think that's generally a bit better. Just because it like lets you set up like double arsenal and stuff like that. Generally just pretty good against warriors on the whole. But like running Crown of Dominion is not necessarily bad. The one thing that I would also say that if you do want to run Crown of Dominion, you probably should also be running the Abyssal Quiver just so you have like a little bit more equity and fatigue. So I'm gonna like write down that note as basically like run NH instead, basically. All right, so that's our first note. Let's take a look at how they sideboard here as well. Kind of curious. Oh, did someone sent treat for 5 jewels? Wait, why am I getting a dog treat? That's hilarious. Is that like actually insulting? Maybe. Okay. But it looks like they're just running clean 60, or maybe they're just doing like the hollow board, which I think is like also pretty reasonable. We'll kind of see. I assume it's probably just like Kraken plus battering lean 60. It's all good. G Fish 72.
That's very funny.
That is very funny though. With Assassins and Warriors on the rise, do you think Loan Shark will be back? I don't know how good of a card Loan Shark is, but it's like not the worst thing in the world. I don't know. I have to like go back and test it more, but I'm personally not really a Loan Shark fan. All right, so let's go ahead and pause here. So first turn of the game, it looks like we're kind of just doing cycling some gold and then also just sending like 9 overpower, which I think is fine. I did not catch how many our opponent is actually presenting, but we'll probably see it here in a second. Let's see if we can find out. But we're sending 9 overpower with gold on the first turn, which is like relatively safe. Plus we're just getting our cannon activations in the case that we do end up connecting here. So I'm kind of curious whether this Hala is on a lean 60 versus not a lean 60, but nothing like egregious so far. Like this looks fairly good to me. The only thing that obviously I'd want to do here is maybe run like New Horizons just so we can set the double arsenal, but not too bad otherwise. Let me go ahead and also keep my finger on the skip button here. All right, hold on a second. I'm gonna see if I can try to capture like how many cards our opponent's presenting. Maybe I missed it. I don't know if we ever moused over it, but we'll figure that out in a second. Okay, so it looks like we're basically setting the battering bolt as arsenal. That's fine. Trying to skip around here, but like the 30 seconds is like a little bit too much. Okay, there we go. Okay, but this is like a pretty good start. No complaints about just sending 9 overpower. Try to see if we can fast forward like a little bit here. Okay, we get 8 block. Oh, we got, wait, looks like 5 armor in the opener. Okay, so this is actually really good for us. So turn 1, really good. We get basically gold on hit as well as armor blocks turn 1, which is really, really solid. Yeah, this is the replay Cody Davis. We're doing some viewer submissions. So these are games that I've not actually played. These are games from our people like in our Discord, or people who've just sent me a message over Discord. And then, so these are actually recorded over OBS. So these are not like replays in Talishar. These are just like OBS games, basically. Kind of like how I do it. But really good opener. We set up basically double gold, and then we also get to Arsenal Battering Bolt. So really clean. I made actually a note about this turn because I think this turn is potentially really interesting. But we'll see what they end up doing here. So we have Battering Bolt and Arsenal, and then we also have 2 blues, Big Game Trophy Shot, and a pre-med. So pretty good hand lineup for us here. Let me go ahead and fast forward a little bit here. All right, looks like our opponent is playing out Brimming Blade, I think is the name of that card. So Brimming Blade getting some counters, activating Hala, and then just swinging in for 6 here. So really lackluster turn from our Hala opponent here. So we do definitely want to try to capitalize on this if possible. So there is one awkward thing about Trophy Shot here, and that's the fact that we do not have a Harpoon to actually send the Trophy Shot. So basically, the math we can kind of do here is that Trophy Shot is basically giving us like kind of a +4, but it's at the cost of -1 gold, whereas normally it would kind of like even the gold out if it was on a Harpoon. So I like the idea of actually just like blocking Trophy Shot here, just because like you're only kind of getting like +1-ish value, or you're going like +1 value basically. So you're sending Trophy Shot for 4, but you're also gambling, and then you're also going like -1 gold, and gold is generally worth like about a point of value, or like a point or 2 of value. So I like the idea of actually just like blocking the Trophy Shot here, which I think our fan here does. So I think pretty clean start. And the nice part is our opponent's also like pitching a Fiddler's Green, which we don't have to worry about until later. So now the question becomes, I still haven't seen how many cards they're presenting in deck, but we'll hopefully try to figure out here in a second. At some point we will mouse over it. I'm kind of assuming, at least based on the initial kind of cards presented, that this looks a bit more like a kind of grindy or mid-range kind of fatiguey Hala. But yeah, no real complaints so far, other than I think that our equipment loadout is like slightly off for this matchup, and then I think that it generally like does matter, especially in like the more kind of grindier version of Hala. All right, let's see what our Hala opponent ends up doing here. I'm gonna try to skip ahead a little bit. Oh, skip to a little too far. All right, looks like this is the point where they take the Battering Bolt. Yeah, it definitely seems more like mid-range, fatiguey. Okay, so they're going to get Fiddlers plus an Edict and then Fate Foreseen. Okay, so this still ends up being really good for us. Obviously, we're kind of time walking. And then we also get to set up the Arsenal with the pre-med. So we're hoping for a pretty good Arsenal here. Again, our opponent's still at 40, but this is like basically fine. Okay, now we have like a pretty good turn of our own here. So this becomes kind of interesting because there's a little bit of tension actually between the cheating Scoundrel and Arsenal and the Golden Tipple. Because the one unfortunate thing is that the cheating will actually buff like the attacks in hand. I kind of like the idea here of, okay, this is kind of going to be an interesting play. One thing that we could do to see whether or not we're going to be drawing into an arrow is to actually like pitch the Eye of Ophidia, and maybe even like it's between the Murderous Rabble and the Tipple. But basically we have like a decent chance of actually like drawing into an arrow here, which is kind of cool. This is definitely awkward though, because like if you ever want to play out the cheating, you do kind of have to like play out and attack this turn, which is really weird. And we are also only on 1 gold at this point. So I feel like before anything, what I would do here is basically pitch the Eye of Ophidia and the Murderous Rabble to cannon to just kind of like see what the top of the deck is. If we find an arrow, then we don't have to like worry about making a Goldfin here and like doing the Tipple, because the Tipple kind of like clashes with the cheating in a weird way, which is kind of interesting. The thumbnail is Haunting Girl. That's kind of the intent. I hope people enjoyed the thumbnail for today. But yeah, anyways, so I think I like the idea of just like getting max information here and just pitching a cannon, just so we like know whether or not we're drawing into an arrow or a codex or just something a little bit better here. Because it looks like right now we're actually kind of taking a line. Oh, hold on. Oh wait, there's like options for how you undo on Talishar. Hold on. Okay, hold on. All right, so they're gonna Tipple first. So this gets kind of interesting because now, okay, so this is like kind of actually a gold mismanagement problem. So let me actually write down the turn number. So turn number 2, gold management. So this actually sets us up in a really awkward spot. So you noticed how I mentioned that there's like a tension between the cheating scoundrel and the golden tipple. Because we didn't play this golden tipple, now we are like guaranteed to have to spend another gold to basically like reload unless we find like a 3-oak or something off the top. So what I would generally do is still just like cannon here to like get the up first so we know what the top of our deck is. If we don't do that, then we're gonna run into a scenario where we basically have to go -1 gold just to like get the load here, which is really awkward. But we'll see what the top is. So it looks like we do find an arrow off the top. And it is bluefin, which is pretty decent here. So this ends up being fine. But the only awkward part is, again, that we do have to like crack the extra gold here. It's also the first day back to school, so it's very thematic. Oh, interesting. I didn't know. I guess it kind of makes sense, right? What day is today? Like August 24th? Oh, yeah. It's about back to school season.
I'm in my 30s. I have no idea.
Yeah, so here we're basically guaranteed to have to crack another gold here, which is really awkward. So I'm kind of curious how we navigate this. Oh, and we draw a cheating, which is like fine here. At least lets us kind of potentially go gold positive. The one thing to note is we do have to use the tunic here, but the tunic is, that's kind of what the tunic is there for. But yeah, we theoretically could have been +1 gold here if we basically opted first. Okay, it looks like we have Sirens of Safe Harbor. I've been seeing a lot of more Sirens of Safe Harbor in Hala. It seems like it's just kind of like a grindy fatigue card. And it looks like we hit an Edict here, so we have a nice fat stack of gold here, which is actually like a very good place to be against Hala. So even though we technically went like -1 gold, we're still going like +5, which is like relatively fine. This is also like one hand to kind of note the strength of New Horizon because we drew our first 3-oak. If we were able to have New Horizon, obviously the double load here would be really solid. It looks here like we're going to start cracking some gold to find a buff, which I think is reasonable. I wouldn't get like too greedy with the gold here. I'd probably just like see if we can find maybe a better arrow and then maybe try to like arsenal the 3-oak for next turn. Huh. It's kind of curious. Interesting. I think, okay, so let's actually rewind like 10 seconds here. Because this is actually a really interesting line. Generally what I do is if I already have resources for 3-oak and the returns are not like immediate, I generally would actually take the line of just sending like battering bolt for 10 here. And the reason why I would do this is because basically what it allows me to do is to save this 3 of a kind for next turn, basically. I think that if you have like a ton of resources already, like saving 3-oak for your next turn is like one of the best ways you can set up like offensive overlap. So let me actually write down a note here on turn 3, basically, that we want to kind of actually save the 3-oak for next turn. So 3-oak, like being able to use 3-oak defensively or offensively, like which arsenaling it kind of like allows you to do is like very powerful. So I wouldn't even bother like trying to crack more gold here to try to find a buff. I would just like settle on sending 10 and then just like arsenal the 3-oak is probably my line here. Yeah, Ben also brings a good point, just like more bigger number. So like here we're just kind of like using a ton of our resources, right? Like we're using a ton of our gold and we're also using a ton of our, like we're using our 3-oaks, which are like some of our best threats in our deck. So I'd be really careful about just generally like popping gold unless you have like an explicit reason to. I think that like if we save that 3-oak, we actually get like a really kind of cracked turn next turn, right? Where we get to send like cheating plus 3-oak and then like maybe do all the things, right? So I like the idea of just like trying to save the 3-oak there because like otherwise we're kind of just sending like a pretty middling turn here. Kind of interesting. All right, and our opponent's declining the undo request. Very rude. But yeah, we have the option to send like an extra 2 there, which I think is definitely pretty relevant. If you watch football, you could do the yellow lines and arrows analyzing the plays. Yeah, if we could do something like that. I don't know if there's like an overlay that I can do on Windows Media Player, but if I had more fancy technology, maybe I could do that. I do think that like just kind of talking through a lot of these plays, like the reason why I want to make this video is that Marlin's a very hard deck. People tend to struggle, so like pointing out that like there are a bunch of micro optimizations that you can do to like actually improve your play, I think is pretty valuable to people. But I do like the football idea. Okay, like we still end up actually having like a pretty good 3-oak turn here anyways, if you look. So we have cheating, pre-med, Kraken, and then a 3 of a kind. The only awkward part here is that we don't have the blues, obviously, but we do have at least some reds to work with here, so I don't hate this. I'd probably still just like end up sending this for like 16 to 12, depending on how kind the 3 of a kind is to us. But the nice part, I guess, about having Battery Bolt in Arsenal is that we don't really care about like necessarily activating cannon here. Okay, so we kind of whip here, but that's not the end of the world. So it looks like our friend here is basically mousing over the gold because they want to try to keep 3 of a kind, or they want to try to keep a codex here, which I think is reasonable. So I don't like hate this gold crack. I think this gold crack's like kind of fine. But we're still sitting in 16 here, which is pretty good. Good fatigue math. Can we also get tabletop simulator of John Madden? That's also a potential future endeavor. But yeah, 16, not too bad. So it looks like we get a couple cards here, get a shelter. So our opponent's still getting like time locked, and then they're also taking 4, which is great for us. And then we also get the cheating scoundrel gold, which is great. Set up codex. The only downside of codex is that we don't have our king krakens live yet, which is the only unfortunate part there. And we also arsenal the tipple over the codex, which I don't think matters that much, but I'd probably lean towards arsenaling the codex just because resolving it's pretty good. I guess you don't like have to necessarily though. They're both pretty similar. I just like having like the pitch card in hand, but that's like a minor thing, if anything, right? That's not like a major misplay or whatever. Also here, like one thing to note is that we could have theoretically hooked this tipple, but that being said, I think our opponent did show us ripple away, so it kind of makes sense to not hook this tipple just because we don't know whether or not we're actually making gold this turn, so it's like a little bit risky. So I don't actually mind not hooking here, but that being said, if your opponent's not a ripple away, then obviously it gets a little bit better. All right, we are activating the the mind games hook. Love it. So this hook obviously doesn't do much, but it's fine. I still don't hate also like arsenaling 3 or like saving 3 to second cycle here. It's like kind of mid, but it's fine. Like we have like a good tempo lead here, so like we're fatiguing them, I think, pretty decently. Yay, VOD reviews. Thank you, Tasha. I'm trying to give like the constructive feedback here, so I might not be paying attention to chat as much, but I'm gonna do my best here. I actually kind of like the hold on, we'll pause here. So if this is a very grindy holla, I kind of like the idea of actually just cashing in a gold to kind of keep this King Kraken, because King Kraken is one of the better threats in our deck. Setting the arsenal is really good. And yeah, just King Kraken is like kind of broken, so I try to like value the King Kraken like pretty highly here. I think that there's like a weird line where you can try to like crack gold to preserve the King Kraken in deck, but I do like leaving like 10 damage in the deck, especially if our opponent is like posturing kind of very defensively into us. So I kind of like the idea of just like holding on to this Kraken to just like save it for a future turn. But there's like a downside of obviously losing the gold, which is kind of rough. So, and we do also like lose out on the ponder value, but it's fine. Then we also opt to send Bluefin here. Interesting. Did we have a better target? Hold on, let's rewind. Maybe I can try to catch it. So we had a shallow water, and we also had a battering bolt. So I generally don't love like sending these blue harpoons off a codex. Like I generally do prefer like the higher numerical value codex targets. Like battering bolt is like still just like time walk against hollow, which I think is really valuable. So unless there's like a specific reason why you want to send bluefin, I think it's just kind of always better to send battering or shallow, depending on like, do they actually have an arsenal here? I guess we could find out. Okay, they do have an arsenal. Interesting. Yeah, I do. I think you're right, Hala. Yeah, I just Marlin the Golfin here.
Tasha, not Hala.
Or oh, sorry, did I call Tasha Hala? That's my bad. So currently we are also sitting at 3 gold. So I'm gonna. Okay, so this is like turn 6, I believe. It's kind of hard to see. Sorry, the video quality is like kind of interesting. So turn 6. I would say keep the Kraken for deck density. I'm just making like a mental note here, but we'll let the video play while it goes. And then I would probably not send bluefin. Those are like my 2 notes for this turn. I think there's like maybe something better to send here. Like I think shallow is also like pretty impactful because I think we also know that they have like a brimming blade in arsenal. I actually can't remember that. If someone in chat knows, let me know. But I think that this is like an action, if I'm not mistaken. So like pressuring that action with the shallow water, I think is pretty valuable. Okay, looks like we get a trophy shot and a catch of the day. So trophy shot's a good arsenal. Like that. All right, we're gonna go for the Marlin here. So the nice part is our opponent's basically giving us like full tempo every turn, which is super good. And then we could potentially try to gamble here on the gold if we wanted to also send the catch here. But I don't think this is necessarily like a clear misplay. It kind of depends a lot on like what the top of our deck is. So this is like an interesting spot. So do you gamble? I think what you do is before you load, you maybe want to gamble here. But going to 1 gold is like also like a little bit risky, especially when you have a trophy shot. So this is kind of like a spot where like you probably, that 1 extra gold that we had like kind of earlier in the game actually would have made this decision like a lot easier because we'd have like 3 gold and then we can like gamble a little bit more freely. And then potentially send the catch of the day, which is maybe impactful. But I think I don't mind just... Okay, oh, we're going to pitch the trophy shot. Actually, I don't know if I like this. Because arsenaling the trophy shot is like one of our better arsenals. So like the sooner we resolve trophy shot for max value, like the better it generally is. And we're going off an arsenal here, which is a bit awkward. So the option was basically between 14 no arsenal and 12 with one of our best arsenals in the game. I think I like the idea of still keeping the trophy shot there, just because we have the gold prerequisite for it, and then we can also just try to kind of like keep chaining together really strong attacks. So I think this is like pretty close, but I'm gonna probably say this is also like a slight misplay here. Like I would basically try to keep the trophy shot just so you have that extra kind of like steamroll potential, basically. So I'd say keep BGTS. Tasha's gonna lurk from here, but 100% keep BGTS. Yeah, I think I noticed that too, Tasha. Like, I think just keeping one of, like, the more you resolve your better cards in the deck, like, the better you're gonna end up being, right? So there's not really, like, a super compelling reason, like, pitch here and try to play the catch of the day instead. I guess one thing that our opponent, or our friend here could be doing is, like, playing around Command and Conquer, which I think our opponent has technically shown us. But we still have, like, the 3-block bridge to kind of still take care of that, so I'm not too worried. Oh, it looks like... Wait, did they just, like, concede? Oh, I didn't even know. Okay, so our opponent conceded. So supposedly, I thought there was, like, more to this video. All right, there's a second holo. Okay. So I guess we can just, like, go into the second holo game. Sorry, I thought that this was, like, all one continuous holo game. But the first one, I think we played it pretty well. I think there are basically, like, 5 notes I had. Unfortunate. But basically, I think that we had a couple sideboarding notes to basically run, I think, New Horizons instead of Crown and Dominion. I generally even prefer Holding Hood in this matchup, but it kind of depends on, like, what the Hala is doing. I think that if they're like presenting like a lean 60, I think Honing Hood's very strong. If they're not presenting a lean 60, I think Honing Hood also gives you the added benefit of like running Abyssal Quiver, which I think is kind of interesting. But I think it's between like New Horizons, Abyssal Quiver, and basically Honing Hood and Wrestling Leaves basically kind of going first. It kind of depends on like what you kind of pin the Hala as a little bit. Baldemort says, I like the analysis of the games. Well, thank you. I think that this is helpful for people, like, because, you know, I never misplay on stream, but I think that some people, like, misplay, like, when they're playing alone and stuff. That's a joke, obviously. I misplay all the time on stream. But anyways, I think it's, like, helpful to analyze games from players who are, like, not me, because I put in a bunch of reps, so I like, do things that are, like, a little bit maybe non-intuitive, which is kind of cool. Okay, but our first game, like, we had some, I think, like, basically, like, 5 optimizations, which you probably don't, like, get at first glance, but I think that it's still, like, pretty valuable to kind of analyze that. So let's go ahead and continue to our next game here, which I think is, like, another Hala game. Hala, pretty popular on Talishar. All right, so we present, it looks like the same config, so I don't really have any additional notes on this one, other than that I think our config should be a little bit different here. So I'd probably say, like, if we're going first, I generally still prefer second, so I differ a little bit from Nate on this. Can you count the deck in paper before you decide equipment? When you say clean 60, that means not a fat deck. So the way this works in paper, basically, at, like, tournaments, is that your opponent basically, you and your opponent basically both sideboard, you put your decks face down, you put your equipment face down, and then you say, like, okay, like, we're ready to start the game, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, good luck, have fun, that kind of thing. And then, like, basically you flip all your equipment up, you, like, put your decks, you shuffle or whatever. And then you're allowed to, like, ask your opponent, like, hey, how many cards are you running, like, approximately, or, like, not approximately, basically. So your opponent does have to, like, tell you this information. It's technically public knowledge, so your opponent will maybe say, like, oh, I'm running, like, a clean 60, which means, like, that's the minimum number of cards I have to run in my deck. Or your opponent will say, like, oh, I'm running, like, 65, maybe because they're, like, trying to fat deck you or something. So your opponent does have to actually tell you this information, which is also kind of valuable. So this is public information on Talishar because you have the little number counter, but in paper it's also public. So yeah, keep that in mind. But yeah, same notes on equipment setup for this game. And again, in Tal, I generally prefer second, but I think that it's kind of player preference at this point. Like, I can see going first with the Hood as well, or with New Horizons as well. Okay, let's actually, oh, okay. This is an interesting start. So let's rewind this, or let's actually pause here. So our opening hand is Codex of Frailty, Gold the Tip, Catch of the Day, and Portside Exchange. So this is actually a really interesting opener because also it looks like we're maybe facing another, like, hit fatigue hauler at some point, because I see the Arcanate Skullcap. We'll kind of see if our friend here mouses over the deck. Morning Aurora, hello Tianern, welcome to chat. So yeah, this is actually a really interesting opener because we do actually have the Codex of Frailty. So there are a couple interesting lines we could do here. So the first, one of the things that I'm actually always doing on this hand is basically I'm always port-siding the Codex of Frailty. The only question is whether or not I want to do anything else on this hand. And the reason that I'm basically well, I guess it kind of depends, I guess, also on, like, what our opponent, like, if they're presenting, like, 60, it is, like, a little bit deck negative to just, like, discard the port side to Codex of Frailty. But I think there's actually, like, a lot of merit, depending on what our opponent is presenting, to potentially just, like, not pitch this Codex of Frailty for later. We have to kind of see, like, what our opponent is presenting here. I don't know if they show it, but another line there is you can potentially, like, port side the Codex, like, crack gold, make a gold pin, port side the Codex, load arrow, gold to tip, send 9. So you'd go off an arsenal, but you would have, I believe, 2 gold at the end of that, which is pretty good, and you're also threatening more gold with hook. So that's like it's hard to say what play is actually correct there because we don't actually know the deck count, but I'm assuming the deck count is, like, fairly high given the skull cap. I don't know if I hate this play necessarily, but I do want to, like, maybe draw attention to that port siding the Codex is an option here, especially if our opponent is, like, presenting a lean 60. I'm not gonna say this is like a clear misplay, but I think we should have thought about this more. And I'll try to see if they mouse over the deck size again here, because the deck size is definitely important to kind of keep track of, at least for my knowledge. All right, so it looks like we have a double sharpen here from the hollow with a flurry. The unfortunate thing about this hand is that we cannot block a beckon here, which is a little bit scary. So I don't think there's a ton of merit to blocking here, because we have Portside Arsenal, we have Eye of Ophidia, and we have Shallow Water. I guess you could block 3. It's like kind of fine. We're not really doing much with this catch of the day here, I don't think. So I don't actually hate just throwing 3 in front of us, but it does feel like a little bit weird. I don't know. Let's keep watching just to see what's going on here. But the only unfortunate part about this is we don't block Beck and Steal. All right, we're reconsidering our blocks here. It looks like we're mousing over the card as a potential Beck and Steal. Yeah, this is an interesting spot. I think this is fine, blocking with the Yellowfin and then just saving the catch of the day. The unfortunate part here is like we're not really blocking anything particular. I guess we could have also saved the block on the second swing if we wanted to give up Sea Lace, but fortunately for us, it looks like our opponent does not have the Beck in here, which is great. Okay, we got a misplay. Who in chat saw the misplay? So this is another case where we actually want to proactively hammerhead first, so that we inform the opt here. Because like information is super valuable in Marlin, pitching the eye to cannon is super good here. So I'm gonna write that down as like a minor optimization here. Is basically opt to cannon. This is also why like eye is super powerful in the deck, is that you do get to kind of like inform your future draws, which is really cool. But yeah, I'd say this is like kind of just a information misplay, if that makes sense. Like we could have had access to more information, but because we did this, we have access to less, which is kind of bad. All right, and then we can do hooks and 9. Oh, interesting. We're actually going to send 11 here, which is also fine. I don't hate this, but like we're probably not connecting anyways. Is opt worth 0.6 of a draw in this game? Is that like the math that you do in Magic? It might be. Maybe it's kind of similar. Actually, so that opt was actually really important there. I don't know if you saw, but there was actually a gold tip, I think, on top of the deck. So we could have actually had another gold and another +3 as opposed to +2 there if we actually opted. So that opt was actually worth like, I think 1 value, right? Or maybe we, hold on, let's actually see where the gold tip was. Let me see if I can like rewind very slightly here. All right, so we load the shallow. All right, cannon. All right, so where was this? So the gold tip was actually on top. So what that means is that we could have actually seen the gold tip and then drawn into it and then made the gold. So yeah, technically that opt was worth like +1 and a gold. Yeah, and Magic Scry 2 is worth more than drawing 1 card. I think that tracks basically. But yeah, we're strictly going -1 here. We're also like wasting catch of the day, which kind of feels bad. So that's like a minor optimization that you can just easily kind of do by activating Hammerhead. It's kind of like a tricky thing, but definitely something that can give you a couple percentage points over the kind of the course of the game. All right, so our opponent's giving us a Fate Foreseen. Oh, fast forward a little too much. Okay, Fate Foreseen, Dynamos. So we could be sitting on an extra gold here, I think. Let's see if this ends up mattering. Oh, I gotta play it. Hold on. Windows player a little bit suspect. All right, unfortunate that they have the Fate from Arsenal, but we will burn them out of DRX eventually. Oh, and we have a really good hand. So we have 13 potentially with the tipple. Looks really good. Our opponent does not technically have any flurries, so they're basically kind of priced into just sending like an attack here in the best case scenario. I guess they have like an and again, which is like also kind of fine. So kind of like a below rate hand. They basically did like 3-card 8. So really, really good for us. And then we're going for the tipple line. So this line is a little risky because if we don't draw the blues, then we're kind of going like gold negative here. Interesting. We do have like the tunics, so there is like some rationale. Like I think this tipple is not necessarily like the greediest tipple of all time, but it is like a little bit sus if we do hit the yellow here. It's kind of tempting. Like I was almost looking at the hand saying like maybe we don't even bother with tipple. Like maybe we just crack gold, send Kraken in case we do draw into a yellow. But that's like maybe like a little bit like results oriented. I think there's like maybe a moment to pause there because like anything that's not a yellow is basically kind of like a super brick there. Whereas if we drew a red and we cracked gold, we'd actually be fine because we're floating one. We have like a red in hand plus the tunic, so that pays for a blue basically. So I think this is like a little bit of a riskier line because you want to like kind of make the gold here. Oh, and we're actually potentially going -3 here for pitching the cheating. Okay, so I do like that we cracked the gold to kind of like salvage this situation like a little bit here. So we basically went like -1 gold to do this, which is a little bit awkward. Yeah, this turn definitely, I think, turned out a bit worse than it could have been, but that's okay. I think that's just like a scenario where you don't want to get super greedy with tipple. I think it's like very tempting to try to play the tipple there, but like I don't think it actually ends up doing you more favors than basically just like cracking the gold immediately. All right, so we'll put like turn 2 greedy tipple. All right, looks like they full cover as well, which is unfortunate, but not much you can do. Again, we have to get through the first part of Carlin theory, which is to just chew through the armor, right? Okay, and we have like a pretty decent hand ahead of us here. So we have Sunken Treasure, which we can block, make a little bit of gold. They're pitching a Beck and Steel, which is really good. They also don't have a flurry yet, although they did just make a flurry, so that's unfortunate. But our opponent, oh sorry, they do have Tunic up, so they can actually still swing off the back of this. Interesting. Do I like giving the full hand here? The full hand's not terrible, honestly. We block 9 as opposed to trying to send 10. The only awkward part is we are giving up full tempo, but it might not matter that we're giving up like full tempo into a bit more of a defensive hollow here. So maybe this ends up being okay. But yeah, we're still leaking 2, which is a little bit weird. The other alternative here is we want to just like crack gold, hammerhead, send 10. I think there are pros and cons, but I think I'd probably maybe take a little bit more of the aggressive line. I definitely always want to block with Sunken Treasure there at least. You can tell this Marlin wastes their money on avocado toast, am I right? Oh, because of all the fables? Potentially.
Well, if you bought fables, you don't have avocado toast.
Yeah, if you buy fables, you don't have avocado toast. I think that's the big problem. Okay, so this is weird. Okay, I actually don't like this. The issue here is we're trying to block out what looks to be like potentially a Beck and Steel, but I don't know if we can necessarily afford to block this turn. Because like if we are committing to blocking the Beck and Steel, we're basically folding the entire hand. Which I don't love here. I guess you could also like resolving trophy shot's really valuable still, like even I guess my problem is less with blocking with the trophy shot overall. It's more so blocking with the armor and the trophy shot, because like we're not actually blocking out a Beck and Steel this turn. Because they're gonna basically just follow up with another 5 on the next hand. So either we're like full committing to blocking this, or we're like not blocking a Beck and Steel at all. Okay, it looks like they don't have the Beck and Steel, so like I feel like giving armor there wasn't like super valuable, but giving the trophy shot was. Just like make a mental note that like if we do end up needing that armor later in the game, then that was kind of like maybe not a great time to block with it. It's you basically have to decide whether or not you're kind of committing to blocking out the Beck and Steel there or not. So I'll add that as like a note. So it was like turn 3. Sea Lace was weird. All right, but we're still like kind of sending good damage here. So we have 13 on a battering bolt. Our opponent's low-ish on armor. And we have the pre-med on hit as well. So our opponent maybe just wants to like fold the hand here, which I think is probably likely. So we can fast forward a little bit here. Oh, okay. Okay, looks like they're giving us 1 card. 2 cards. Let's see what they do here. All right, overcrowded, Swords Master Path, and then maybe like double D-React or something. Okay, no double D-React. Okay, that's really good for us. All right, so we have Commanding Performance and Burdens of the Past. So we shouldn't care too much about that. We hit a nice Ponder, which is that shallow there. Only awkward part about this is that we do have like the Battering Bolt, but the Battering Bolt we can kind of just save until next turn. So I think we're kind of okay to just take the 6 here. I don't even think there's necessarily like a super compelling reason to give armor there, but like I guess the one block on the gold baited hook is probably not doing a ton for us there anyways. I saved my money by making my own coffee with a $6,000 espresso machine. Only 7 more years of coffees for it to pay for itself. We just have like a little coffee grinder with a little carafe or whatever it's called.
Carafe, but we do have a nice burr grinder, so
that was only like $80 or something. That was also a Christmas present.
yeah.
All right, we're still sending some good damage here. So we have 12 coming in with the cheating, which is good. Looks like this hollow opponent's probably not actually playing like a more defensive hollow like we saw last time. Although I guess they are still on like the sigils and stuff. So the life totals are evening out a bit here. And one thing to note is I don't think we've actually resolved any copies of our codexes or 3 of a kinds here. Okay, there's our first 3 of a kind. So that is definitely important. All right, it looks like our opponent is just sending like kind of vanilla-ish damage here. This is one way we can potentially get kind of blown out here, is if our opponent like follows up with like a CNC or something. Okay, but looks like it's just Siren, so we're kind of fine with this. So we're taking 4, going down to 7, and then presumably we're probably just gonna like rip the 3 oak here. Could even try to cash in a little bit of this gold. I don't hate this. But I think the returns are weird because we didn't block with the Kraken. Because if we draw the blue, then I just want to set like double arsenal. If we don't draw the blue, then it's weird. But we did draw the cheating, which is good. So maybe this gamble actually ended up kind of paying off. Cheating is nice here. All right, we drew another 3 oak. That's good. I don't know how much often hollows will run Warmonger's Diplomacy. I've seen like some of them do it. But generally important thing is I'd probably try to arsenal the Kraken here just in case they do. It's not like super likely, but it is possible. Oh, holding Tunic counter here is interesting as well. Yeah, the Tunic is weird here. I don't know. There's definitely some like weird things this turn. But welcome Nate to the chat. Nate can help me also do some coaching from the stream chat. Like we are at least time walking our opponent here, which is nice. I at least don't have any complaints about that. All right, we get another Beck and Steel. So I think that's like 2 Beck and Steels gone. And I guess we can also potentially win the wager here. All right, we're just creating the 3 oak, which is maybe okay here. Kind of depends what our next hand is. Is 3 oak worth the gold? Probably is. I'm kind of curious. Oh, wait, why didn't we portside this turn? I think this is like a pretty clear portside to me. I at least don't see like a compelling reason to not portside unless we're like super worried about fatigue for some reason. But I think like we're so far behind that we can't necessarily like afford to worry about fatigue in this position. So I kind of like always play the portside here just in case we do like rando into another buff or just like some other more relevant arrow. So yeah, the portside definitely I think would have been nice here. I guess the one downside, is there a downside to portsiding? No, I don't really think there is. I guess we could have gone like Ripple Away there, but like we don't know our opponent's playing Ripple Away. Or we know our opponent's playing Ripple Away, but we don't know our opponent has the Ripple Away rather. Right, looks like they're going to cover 12 here. That's fine. So this is still good for us because we're getting the full hand. All right, so we get a pre-med, a bluefin, and pre-med for next turn. So this actually could be good for us here. We go pre-med, catch of the day, hammerhead. Not bad. 13 is acceptable. Now let's see what our opponent actually ends up doing here. Oh, a little too far forward. Okay. Looks like they got an Oasis, a Hone for Honor. Okay, we do deny our opponent actually being able to pitch for CNC here, which is pretty valuable. So our opponent's probably just going to do like Zenith Blade, pass Arsenal, meet either the CNC or the Swordmaster's Path. I think the Swordmaster Path is maybe a little stronger with the Rum Brace. So that makes sense to me. And we draw our Codex here, which is really nice. So we just get to go Rabble, Codex. Seems good. These last couple turns have not been, like, no super deep notes here. I think these have all been fine. All right, good that we get to resolve a Kraken here also. So a nice little 13 value turn. Not too bad. We are pondering into the Seafloor Salvage, which is also a nice little bit of gold gen for the next turn. Kind of looks like our opponent's not on like full fatigue hollow. They're just maybe running Skullcap just for the block value. All right, getting a commanding performance is really good. All right, sink below, sure. All right, double sink below, unfortunate. But we've seen actually a lot of reacts at this point. All right, we're checking our graveyard, which is good. We haven't checked our opponent's graveyard all that much, though. Oh, this next hand's really good. So we have a Seafloor Salvage and Arsenal. They're definitely fatigue-oriented, I think, still. Maybe that's true. I still am waiting for them to, like, mouse over the deck at some point, which is maybe a misplay in and of itself that we haven't seen the deck. Like, we're not keeping track of the deck super regularly. Oasis leads me to think that there are more in that camp. It could be true, but they're also running like some weird stuff like commanding performance and like CNC. Maybe CNC is also in the fatigue version. So the play that we're gonna make here, or the play that I hope we make here, is that we do C4 salvage, just turn over random yellow, crack gold, and then if we draw 2 blues or we draw a buff, we're basically sending 13 or 12 depending on whether or not we can resolve the catch of the day. So that's the play I would make, and then we get to just save the Codex for next turn. So yeah, this ends up being fine. We probably just turn over like one of our own yellows, it looks like. So let's see what we get here. All right, draw blue, that's good. We're cracking gold, we should always like pause there, but that's like just a minor misplay. That's not like a game-losing misplay or like an impactful misplay. Just always like wait to see what you draw before you load. But 95% of the time you're playing Kraken there. So I'm glad we saw the line here of cracking gold to go +1 int. So really good. We are also hooking this turn because we C4 salvage. So all in all, pretty good. And we get to Arsenal the Codex next turn. So solid math we're doing here. No complaints. Oh, and we get to double hit here, which is fantastic. So we get to rip 2 Edicts of Steels, and then we also get the provoke. So our opponent still has that Swordmaster's Path in Arsenal, so keep that in mind here. But our opponent's still like just sending like 6 next turn, so we can probably just get there. Like this is like a perfect example kind of a holo game where like even if we're not playing like super optimally, I still think this matchup is like pretty good for Marlin on the whole. So not too shabby here. Our opponent's like scrolling up. Okay, so Swordmaster, I think they were basically checking to see the Swordmaster's Path was in Arsenal. Okay, so yep, that's what we're playing this turn, and then I think here what we basically just do is give the Battering Bolt as block. Oh, looks like they're rewinding here, maybe. All right, sending in 6. I don't actually know if I like blocking with the trophy shot here, because I kind of want to actually just like play this golden tip to like, kill them faster. Like we go to 4, but they would be going to like we get to keep an extra +3, which could maybe like finish the game a little bit faster. So I don't necessarily like this trophy shot block here. I think I'd probably keep it, so because our +3 is a little bit more valuable than their +3 is the way I kind of think about it. Okay, so it looks like maybe we're self-correcting here. We're thinking about it. I think there is a correct block here in the sense that I think you just block Battering Bolt. This is not good. Okay, I'm not sure what this block is, actually. I think this is like... So the issue with this block is that we don't give the Battering Bolt, which we actively kind of want to get out of our hand. And then we also don't get the +3. So I don't really like the idea of like... I think the correct block here is just block Battering Bolts on 3, take 3, go to 4. Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate, Cody. That yeah, I think they like kind of what do you call it? I guess like overthought it a little bit too hard. That's okay though. So this is like turn 11, missing +3 basically. So unfortunate. I think they like kind of like mind games themselves. I don't even know if that's necessarily like. I'm not saying like this person's like playing badly. Like they're actually like winning this game still, I think, which is good. But they're definitely like micro optimizations you can make, right? Like little things like that to like just eke out an extra +3 is like kind of what makes this deck really work. Also, okay, it's kind of falling apart here. So we had 2 blues to already pitch to. What is an Arsenal again? Is it Codex and Arsenal? Hold on. Oh, it is a Codex and Arsenal. Okay, hold on. So this is interesting. So we played the 3 oak, and we pitched a Codex here. Well, let me like go back so it's a little bit more visible. This is gonna get really awkward. All right, so we cracked one of our 4 gold to gold the tip. So we got our 2 blues. Now, what I expect in this scenario is that we actually just like IP with the Codex and not bother trying to draw into anything else, because like anything we draw into, we're going to be discarding the Codex here. Oh, hey, Aurora, the Cog Crankers collab was great. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Norim. I think I saw you in chat over there. Yeah, this block is weird. Yeah, I don't know. This is like kind of strange because like I think if we have a Codex in Arsenal already, right? We can IP with the Codex and just set that up for next turn, and we don't have to bother like cracking here. Like we're basically using the same amount of gold for like the same benefit while also like milling ourselves, which is kind of awkward. So I think I like IPing with the Codex here just so we can like try to set up a better turn next turn. But lots of micro optimizations here, which is kind of like why I wanted to do this. I think it's like pretty valuable to kind of see these. It's a lot harder to see them yourself when you're kind of playing the game. But yeah, this turn ended up being really clunky. Like I think we wasted like a couple gold here that we didn't really need to. Okay, so we're gonna use the I opt there to keep the red fin on top, which is fine. We will always want to send Kraken. We're still probably like winning this game, but it definitely feels like we could have won a little bit faster. Like we may even just win like right. Okay, so well, I'm just trying to fast forward a little bit. So they block with overcrowded. See what they do. All right, Steelblade Shunt fully cover makes sense. We ponder into Redfin. Our opponent keeps probably what is a middling hand next turn. Probably some more focus we could have put on that opt there, but I'm not going to like stress it too hard. Well, his commanding performance is actually going to be a little annoying. I think this card only cares about actions though, right? Is it attack actions or actions? I can't remember. Okay, I think it's just attack actions, so we're actually fine to block like that, so that's a good block. Get a little bit of gold gen also. Sending 8. This is where I feel like the game starts to fall apart on us a little bit here. Just because, like, we missed that extra +3, obviously, and then, like, our opponent could be 3 life lower, and then we can also be 3 life lower, and I think us being 3 life lower is, like, less of a big deal. Yeah, I think, yeah, you're right, Nate. It's attack actions. I couldn't remember. I have not seen this card in, like, a million years, to be fair. Okay, another Steelblade Shunt. That's fine. So we're kind of at the point of the game where the Hollow just kind of refuses to die, which is her right. I kind of almost like hold on, pause. I kind of almost like just going to 1 here. As crazy as that is, I kind of just want to like close the game from this point. Like it kind of feels like we spent the last couple turns like not closing the game. So like if our opponent's putting this to 1 and we can like kill them if we keep a 4-card hand, I generally think it's pretty valuable to just like eat the damage here and just try to say like kill me or don't kill me, you know what I mean? Like I think we're playing like a bit too passively here by trying to like walk down the life totals. I would be a bit more aggressive here and just say like I am going to try to kill you every single turn and then you're not going to get a chance to attack me basically. But important thing to note is I do think that at least the way I play Marlin is a bit more aggressive. So I think that I would take a little bit more of an aggressive line here. Hey Rose, how's it going? We're doing some Marlin VOD reviews. I don't... The issue is, like, with blocking 6 there is that we're kind of just, like, not keeping enough cards to, like, kill our opponent. I think we just need to, like, kill our opponent faster is what I'm kind of seeing at the end of the game here. So, like, even if we do win this, I question whether or not we could have done it sooner. And I think, like, this gives our opponent, like, more opportunity to just, like, draw block cards to block us out every turn. So this is still good because we're sending like Goldfin for 9 over power, but like our opponent can like pretty easily cover this with like D-react plus armor or something like that. So, or even just attack reactions, right? Oh yeah, I'm excited for the Malice spoilers. Those have seemed pretty cool. Okay, what does our opponent do here? I'm kind of just skipping a little bit forward, but it looks like we D-react this. Looks like it's block plus fate foreseen, which puts us to 3. So like this is like an important thing to note is I think we could have killed our opponent like a lot sooner here, at least force like tunic block or something, which would have been kind of like in our favor. Like we would basically be 4 points or 3 points lower, but we'd have our opponent basically at 1 here, which is a lot more of a dangerous kind of place to be in. So don't forget to just like use your life total as a resource is kind of what we're seeing here. It does look like they're maybe on kind of like a more fatigue-oriented build. All right, we're still blocking here. I guess we could be playing around like Swordmaster's Shine there, which I think our opponent is playing around, so I don't hate that block. And now we still just need to like kind of close out the game here. I almost wonder if there's also some merit to just like making a Goldfin here because we're kind of starting to run out of to the point where we're like kind of running out of gold. Restless Outlaw is nuts. I've heard that card's really cool. I saw it like right before the stream. Like making 2 zombies is pretty sweet. Yeah, I'm glad the Malice spoilers came out today because I know Rose in chat has been fiending for them. Okay, so it looks like we're getting another 2 block here. Like, this is the problem with not sending the damage, is that now this game just like lasts forever, whereas we kind of had the chance to kind of close it out earlier. All right, another Fate Foreseen, yeah. So like we're basically just kind of giving our opponent like more outs to kind of kill us here. All right, looks like we sharpened and to go again, pulled Tunic. All right, this is all fine. We're giving Sunken here. So like this is an example of a game I think we could have won like 2 turns earlier or something like that, or maybe like 3 turns earlier or something. Instant 3x, I'm salivating. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the spoilers, Rose. I know you've been excited for them. Dance Macabre is also wonderful. I like that card as well. All right, we drew our Codex. That's good. But we're pitching the Codex. So I guess we don't want to like waste our gold here. But like, there's kind of a lot of merit to maybe not. Maybe like being passive with the gold here is fine. But I think there's like a lot of argument to just trying to crack to like resolve that Codex and send like Murder Scrabble for lethal. It's risky because if your opponent ends up trying to block you out, then you don't potentially get the ability to like load or shoot an arrow, depending on like what your pitch stack is. But I think this is like another example where you can maybe try to be a little bit more aggressive. Those boots are cracked. Yeah, the boots seem really good. All right, looks like we're getting some more blocks here. So our opponent goes to 1. And then what do we see out of our opponent's hand? Hold on, I'm trying to like... All right, we get 2 blocks here. Opponent takes 2 and goes to 1. And then I don't think we hit on anything off red fin. I think it was, it looks like it was just 2 blues. So Siren's Safe Harbor and again. All right, so I think we're taking this down. So we're finally getting a little bit more aggressive here. So we finally decided to eat some damage so that we can go like a little bit lower, so that way we can potentially just like kind of close out the game. So I finally like this play. I like the play of basically just, you know, trying to kill our opponent, which is really good. So we draw port side. I think what we want to actually do is draw the red lore here and then keep the port side on top, because port side is like a free way to load in the kind of like late game. But looks like we're drawing the port side instead, which is fine as long as we potentially kill here. But the issue is that we might not end up killing with the battering bolt. So this could still be really awkward. Yeah, Cody. I think you and I are on the same page in the sense that I think that there was like a window of opportunity where they could have taken a little bit more damage to try to close out the game faster. And because the longer the game is going on, the more your opponent is able to block, and therefore you're kind of like struggling to basically kind of close out the game. So like this turn is like, or this game is going on like basically like 5 turns longer than it kind of needed to, because we didn't take that kind of aggressive line. All right, so our opponent's going to 1 here, and that's 2 Beckon Steals out of the way. So now we just need to kind of close out the game. And this is also a scenario where I really wanted to keep that port side on top of the deck instead of the red lore. But I guess red lore is also fine depending on what we draw into here. Funny enough, the Tipple kind of demands a card here. This might still be okay. I mean, like, I think we actually end up cracking another gold at the end of this turn just so we can try to set red lore as an arsenal. All right, we got the Tunic, which is good. I do like the... Okay, we're cracking gold here, looks like. Or maybe not. Oh, we have to crack gold there. All right, that's also big no-no. We have to crack gold there so that we can keep an extra card in Arsenal so that we don't have to like keep wasting gold. Very important to crack gold there so that we can hold the red lore as just another overpower threat for next turn. But I like kind of understand not wanting to do that, but like that's something where just keeping an arsenal is like always good. All right, we get some more cards. Again, this is maybe a game that's going on like 10 turns longer than it actually needed to. Okay, I guess we have the codex. Okay, maybe we're actually keeping track of pitch deck. This actually might be on my bad. I didn't actually see that we maybe had one more codex left. Yeah, Nate, I think you called it actually. Okay, actually that's maybe not a misplay. That's on me. I think I missed that we didn't actually have one more codex left in the deck. So they might have known that they had a codex and then they were playing towards this out, which makes sense. So I actually like this play. I like going off an arsenal. If we know we have a codex, then I think this is fine. So yeah, this is teacher is wrong in this scenario. If we have a codex, this is absolutely fine. But yeah, looks like we're gonna resolve the codex, so that's good. Get a Kraken. Resolve it. All right, is the game gonna finish here? Looks like our opponent originally is blocking 9. They're checking the defense reactions now. We're trying to I think we've seen all the defense reactions at this point, basically. We've seen all the shunts, all the sync belows, all the fate for scenes. I don't know if our opponent's not running shelter, which is interesting. All right, we sigil, go back up. So we still can't close this game out just yet, which is really unfortunate. We ponder into a bluefin, which is really good. Oasis left. Oh, Rose, you can plug yourself. That's totally fine. Oh, Donnie, I think we might try to play. I don't know if Malice is quite there yet. Maybe after today she's kind of there. But we might end up doing some Malice at some point. All right, we have Red Lore. So I like that we're trying to chain the arsenal here. Eight damage. Again, this is really coming down to like a fatigue route, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, we do have to wait for the cards to be coded, unfortunately. Oh, Rose, you want to build me a Malice deck? Only if you want to, but I think that I think you'd actually probably put together a really solid Malice deck. All right, we get a blue here. Our opponent gets to swing sword. Okay. So I think this is a game that actually went on like 10 turns longer than it necessarily needed to, which is kind of funny. That's okay. Like, I think we still end up nearly deterministically winning this, but we're giving our opponent basically like more opportunity to try to like kill us here. Important thing to note here also is if we're not killing our opponent, we need to make a Goldfin here. Otherwise, there's no way for us to load because we have 3 cards left in deck. All right, but fortunately we do kill there, so we threaten 209 damage. So nice, at least efficient damage tracking. So overall, I think that we played this game like pretty okay. At least like we tried to go kind of like the fatigue route, which I don't think we necessarily needed to, but like we still ended up being fine going that route. So like I think that this ended up still being like a pretty well played game. So anyways, those are the first couple of Hala games. So this is from one of our friends in chat. I don't know if they want to be anonymous or not, but if they are in chat, let me know. Small micro optimization for opting before the Rabble 2 didn't matter because the deck was all blue, but still, yeah, I think that's fair. Definitely some optimizations there as well. All right, we're gonna go to the next game. So this is from Spiff on Discord, and let me actually resize this in OBS because it looks like the ratio was recorded and it was a little awkward. We might actually, hold on, I might skip this one. All right, I might skip this one because this one's in a slightly better ratio. All right, the next video is from Very Much Velvet, which is a 17-minute Dory game. So I'm assuming this is probably like a little bit more of an aggressive Dory, so let's kind of see how this ends up going. Dory is a tricky matchup, so I'm excited for this one. All right, and we're choosing between first and second against Dory. I think we go second here, mainly because I want to run Honing Hood, and I want to run Quiver of Abyssal Depths in case they're on fatigue. But we will see what they want to do here. Right, honing good. We board out the sharks. That's good. Oh, we forgot our quiver. I think there are a decent number of dories that will try to fatigue you, so I do like having quiver as kind of like a backup plan. All right, they're running shuck. This looks like probably a clean 60, but it's a little hard to tell. My assumption is this is probably a clean 60. All right, and the question is now, do we honing hood this? I would personally say no. Because we have a buff, we have 3 of a kind, and we have a blue, so our hand is like near perfect. I would probably say I'm against honing this, but I can see arguments for it as well. It's basically like whether or not you want to gamble the honing hood into an extra +3 damage. But I don't think it's necessary here. Like, this is one of those situations where I think there are some situations where I think I do pop honing hood with 3 on turn 1. Especially if we like don't have an arrow in the opener, maybe we just have all buffs. But this one, it's like a bit nebulous because you're basically just gambling the 3 oak slot into another +3. You could also bait your opponent into attacking you, which is like maybe fine. I don't necessarily like quivering here either. All right, opponent's gonna 3 oak, which I think is okay. We should definitely, okay, huge mistake here. We should not arsenal. Well, actually, is this a huge mistake? I don't like this, is what I would say. I don't know how big of a mistake this is, but like, we're basically now saying that we don't want to resolve the 3 oak next turn, which is a little suspect. And plus our opponent has Crown of Province, so Shallow Water is not actually a good arsenal. Like, what happens if our opponent just like attacks us here? And then we have to like block with 3 oak, and that makes us kind of sad. I'm not a fan of this, actually. They took my line? You like arsenaling the Shallow Water there, Nate? I don't know if I like that, though. It's especially awkward. It's especially awkward now that they drew a 3 oak now, though. You bait the attack and then bait the crown? I guess, but like, I think if you have Catch of the Day, follow up with 3 oak, hand post armor. I can kind of see that. I at least see the rationale. They have no action points from the Shuck. Oh, is that true, Jacob Maxwell? Oh, I forgot Shuck doesn't have Gogan. Okay, maybe that's true. Oh, I punt this game super hard. It all goes wrong on this turn. Okay, let's keep watching because I actually am not sure this is a misplay. I would say I'm not initially a fan of that. I have a somewhat long question, if you don't mind. It's about the last game. If you want to type it out, Cody, go for it. Let's let this play. Let's watch a little bit more, because I'm kind of curious what they end up doing here. Because this is a line that apparently Nate likes in chat. I don't know if I like this line though. We'll kind of see here. It kind of depends, I guess, like what we draw off the top there, because the 3 oak draw is obviously like one of the more awkward things we can draw in this scenario. But it's not like terrible. We do bait the crown, which is good, but then we give our Dory opponent a 5-card hand, which is kind of scary. Low odds of another 3 oak draw, but hey, it happens. Yeah, that's true. I think I would play this very differently, but like, if you're fine with this line, then I'll take that as maybe pilot preference at this point. This is kind of funny, though. We have drawn all 3 copies of 3 of a kind, which generally it's better to kind of space them out if you have the opportunity. But we'll see what our opponent does here. Okay, Cody Davis has a question from the last game. In hindsight, is it possible that they missed the window because they were thinking about Codex and the pitch stack? If so, how do we look at the immediate and not for the future? Sorry, I might be missing the context from that last game, so it's kind of hard for me to exactly say. But I think there was like a Codex in the pitch stack that they had in the last game, where I initially thought that was a misplay that they didn't arsenal the like blue arrow, so they could send the codex there. But if they were keeping track of the codex, then obviously that gets a lot better, right? So it's a lot easier to actually like for if I can't like click on like graveyards and stuff and like see like what threats we still have left in deck, it's a little bit harder on my end. But yeah, I think there's like a logical reason for that at least. All right, Iron Song, yeah. Iron Song is pretty good. So this is a hand where we're probably gonna have to like eat a ton of damage here, and there's not really much we can do about it. Our opponent is probably going to crack their Refraction Bolters. They almost assuredly have some kind of reprise here, so like blocking doesn't really do a ton. So the key to the Dory matchup is also to take on turns and off turns, basically. Like turns where you block with your full hand, and turns where you just like say, I'm not going to block reprise, and you have to deal with it. But I do think this is a very unfortunate draw where we like drew the 2-3 oaks after drawing the initial 3 oak here. Oh, when they started playing 2 defensive, Cody's wondering if they were doing that because they wanted to play to the codex and the pitch deck, and if so, how do you play your pitch deck while not missing the current opportunities? So I'm a bit more of an aggressive player, and I don't really think about my pitch deck as frequently. Like I think codex, it's valuable to. Okay, this is a better phrased question, Nate. Thank you for clarifying. So I think that in general, I try to like my priorities in terms of like the hollow matchup, right? I'm not actually like trying to fatigue my opponent necessarily, like in kind of like the classical sense where I'm trying to run them out of cards. Like I'd much rather just try to kill them with damage because damage is like we will out damage them over the course of the game. Like I think if we miss too many opportunities to like do good math, right? Even if it's at the cost of like playing to like, I think the codex was in our pitch deck for a while, and we basically took a lot of like really weird suboptimal lines to kind of like try to play towards the codex. I think I generally try to value just sending good math in the moment, and then eventually, like once we get to the codex, if we sent good math earlier, then our opponent's in a worse spot, and then we can like resolve the codex easier. Basically, is kind of how I would maybe try to answer that question. Rose says, I'm with you, Aurora. What is that with context for? He's my official translator and nemesis. Whenever I see him pop up on Talishar, I cry. I think there's like a lot of merit to taking like it kind of depends, right? But like it feels like if you're hindering yourself too much by trying to think about your pitch stack, like I focus more on the math in the moment as opposed to like having just like an insane pitch stack that you can kind of like play towards. As in being like the more aggressive player because of the damage you can do. Yeah, I typically have like a little bit more of an aggressive mindset, I think, than a lot of players. But I think there's like merits to both, I think. All right, we have a lot of things going on from the Dory side here. So what does this do? So we're taking 10 here, so there's no way we can stop the counter, which is fine, because like Dory is basically going to guaranteed get a counter whenever she kind of wants here. We are considering blocking with a 3 oak, which is a little awkward. All right, we keep the 3 oak. This could be fine. We just need to draw. Okay, so I think I understand what the misplay is coming up here. Because we have 2 3-of-a-kinds in hand, and we have another one in arsenal. There's like a decent chance that we actually whiff here. And because we're keeping 3 3-of-a-kinds, what I would say is like maybe we play the hand 3-of-a-kind here first to try to like make sure that we just get like whatever the best arrow we can send, like a King Kraken ideally. And then we can sandbag the other 3 up for a future turn. That's what I'm guessing is the misplay here, but we'll watch more and kind of see here. Oh, we're going full greed. Oh no. All right, I can see where this goes wrong very quickly here. This is, well, at least, okay, so we see at least the play of double 3-oaking here to try to just get the most amount of value. I would actually say that you maybe just pitch the Ketcha Day there, just so you can, like, IP with the 3-oak, because 3-oak is obviously, like, one of the best play. The misplay already happened? Wait, where did the misplay? So I think the... Hold on, let's go back. The misplay already happened. I think there is some merit there to not blocking. I guess you could also like, where did the misplay happen, Nate? I'm kind of curious what you say, because I think like there is some rationale to trying to keep the 3-oaks, but I think the way we pitch the 3-oak here is like kind of rough. The turn when you sent the Yark. Hold on, let's go back with the Yark. So that's like the turn before though. Like I think that turn like ended up just being really awkward. I don't know. That's why I also don't like sending the Yark, is my opinion. But we'll see how this game goes. I think let's focus on the current turn. I think that here we don't play catch of the day almost ever, is my opinion. Because like this means that we're not actually also IPing with the 3-oak. That being said, we do draw a codex, so maybe this ends up being fine. This is kind of interesting. Yeah. This ends up being really weird. But I guess like catch of the day on a red fin's not bad. So like this ended up being fine, but I think there's a lot of scenarios where this ends up being really awkward. But I do like it. So we've used all the 3-oaks in our deck, which is really rough. But we at least get to save a codex, so maybe if we can like block with the Kraken, that's fine. We're probably gonna have to posture here for a potential off turn to try to reset the counters, but we don't necessarily need to do it this turn depending on what we hit. So we'll see how this goes. Been talking a lot, so I need to take a little bit of sip of water here. All right. 13 overpower. Catch of the day. I do not think we've also made a gold this turn. So this seems a little sketchy. I do think Redfin is probably our best arrow there, although I could see us potentially whiffing here depending on the Dory's hand. Oh wow, we do not whiff. Okay, this is very good for us. Wait, hold on, pause. Alright, so our opponent has agility token. And they have 2 Dauntlesses. Dauntless is a 1 cost, right? Can someone in chat remind me? I think it's a 1 cost. Which means these are all functionally the same. So we could actually take a decent opportunity to kind of clear the counter here if we wanted to. Because our opponent's sending 7. So we like block 6. Potentially just shake the counter off. The dry hook was very greedy, I will definitely agree. But I think it like kind of worked out for you at least. Can't argue with the results. Ooh, oh. Okay, this is a misplay. We don't want, okay, first and foremost, we do not want to filter there. So the quiver. So I think what we're trying to think about here is we want to like filter this elephant out of our hand because we don't want it in our hand. But the elephant's actually like fine in our hand because we have the codex, right? Maybe we're trying to dig a little bit deeper, but if we hit an arrow off the top, it's like pretty devastating because then we don't get to resolve the codex, right? So this is actually really rough. It's rough, I guess, RNG, but like we kind of could have prevented this from happening by just like not quivering. Like maybe there's some logic to trying to find Kraken here, but if we arsenal like a non-relevant harpoon, it's really rough. Because now we're not arsenaling the codex, which is really bad. And like we want to block this turn, so like keeping the higher block cards in hand. Like if we kept shallow, like imagine our arsenal was codex and we kept shallow plus battering bolt, then we block 7 here. Our opponent can't do anything, right? Because they can't play. I think this is an overpowered hand, or maybe this is another 1 cost. I actually missed what they gave us there. But like we kind of actually punted this pretty roughly here. Oh, you'll keep it 100. You thought you had New Horizon. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. So you like we're trying to set up potentially double arsenal with New Horizon. That's reasonable. That's reasonable. Yeah, it's important to keep note of that because like I think that if you're not running New Horizon, that play is like pretty rough, right? I would also okay, so the only issue here is now we're not shaking off the counter, which is rough. But I think this is still fine. We can at least potentially... this is super awkward. I think what we're supposed to do is not block in the first chain link if we wanted to do this. because then we could block with hook and block 3 on here, then send 9, like, yeah, it's unfortunate that you ended up actually hitting off the top there, because that kind of ruined this whole turn. But that's okay. Like, I also forget about, like, what headpiece I bring all the time, so it's, like, it's pretty reasonable. Alright, let's see. So, how do we get ourselves out of this situation? We block with the Sea Lace and the Codex. Yeah, this is where it kind of like all goes wrong, right? Because like it means we're like not getting to resolve the Codex, which is rough, and then we're also not shaking off the counters, which is rough. Yeah, this is pretty rough like overall, but I do like at least we're maybe mitigating the damage a little bit here. Okay, we have I. Oh, we can actually potentially go for a little bit of a greed line here if we want to. We can potentially look for like blue plus buff off the top, and then we get to send an extra +3 if we want to gamble here. Kind of depends. Okay, we probably wouldn't have hit, but that's okay. Double bottom, that's fine. Although we don't have like 3 oaks anymore, so this is like particularly rough. Why not save the Codex so we have something in arsenal, then send Shallow Water Shark? The issue is the counter from that position, right? Because we don't want to get them to 2 counters, because that's when it starts kind of getting a little bit out of control. Like ideally in the Dory matchup, what you want to do is like alternate between 1 counter and 2 count, like 0 counters, 1 counter, 0 counters, 1 counter. Like you basically want to try to go like on turn, off turn with them basically, and then that's kind of how you can kind of eke out a ton of value. Is like denying reprise value is very important, right? So I think that's why we gave up the Codex. I think there's even some merit theoretically, like if our arsenal is a little bit better, to like just giving them 2 counters, because sometimes Dory can't even like protect 2 counters. It depends a little bit on the game state. But I do like that we're getting blocks here. This is really awkward though. I'm like halfway tempted from this position to just like throw 9 in front of it. But they do have like Swordmaster's Shine and stuff that can like punish that. I guess like 9 is safe from Swordmasters, but they could have like other things. I almost feel like we have to like take our reset turn here, which is really unfortunate. But we could also try to push this through. The issue is the Refraction Bolters, and getting up to 2 counters is weird. I'm curious to see what your block is here. I think if I was in this position, I'd probably just block 9 and see what they do. But I guess like this is still fine because you do at least potentially bait the bolters. But it looks like they're also just giving go again here, which is rough. This could actually end up being fine though, because like they give you the card and they have another balloon pitch, so that they just like Brave Forge Sword. So the problem is we're keeping the sticky counter around, which I don't love. But our hand's like not terrible. We can convert this hand, I think. Kind of interesting though. I think we're cracking gold here and not playing Tipple. Oh no, do not play Tipple, please. I think from this position, we haven't seen a ton of red harpoons, and we also have like codexes to draw. Like I think there's a lot of good draws here if we don't try to go for Tipple. Because Tipple is going to make this hand so awkward. Like, we're going to have to crack so much gold here. I do not like the Tipple here. I think I would just, like, crack a couple of gold. Because we want to try to find gold. Oh, we undo. Okay, wait. We undo. Okay, so, never mind. Our friend here actually saw the line. All right, we don't Tipple. Okay, that's good. We loaded the red fin a little early there because we want to crack another gold here, because if we draw a red harpoon, then this goes south very quickly. All right, let's see if we get punished here. All right, we did not get punished, which is good. But keep that in mind, is that don't load until you absolutely have to if you know you're going to crack another gold. But we're finding at least a lot of like micro optimizations in these games, which is kind of like the point. So a lot of good, I think a lot of good like insight that people might kind of glean from these games. Let's fast forward. Okay, we get a Warrior's Valor. What else do we hit here? I think we hit something else, right? Oh, they have to play at an Iron Song Pride. Okay, that's really bad for them. Okay. Well, that puts us in decent shape, and our opponent just has a Heart of Find All in hand, which does not buff the sword. So now we have to take a little bit of an opportunity to just clear off the counters here, I think. Iron Song Pride. Hold on, I need to read what that card does again. It, like, keeps the counters on if you hit, right? Iron Song. Put a counter on target sword you control when it leaves the arena. Remove all counters on sword you control at the beginning of your end phase. If a sword does not hit this turn, destroy our... So yeah, basically it keeps the counter as long as you hit with it. So this is... We need to basically clear the counter off with this right now. Because if they hit, then they can do like sword, which is another 5 go get like 5 damage afterwards, and then they also get to threaten the third counter, which is really rough. So yeah, this is awkward. So let me go back to the chat. There's a point where I die to not reading an opponent's card. It's okay, it happens. Alright, so this here, so what do we block with? His hand is really awkward. Oh, what do I do here? Okay, so there's actually kind of a line where you do like... You can do like armor plus 3 block, or you could also do 2 cards here and then take an off turn. I feel like neither are great for you though. So Cody, if you didn't pay attention, or so if you didn't notice, the Heart of Find All is the last card in hand because we saw that from the Redfin last turn. So we know that it's not Iron Song. So we know there's nothing here, which is really important information. I think what I like doing here. There's 2 good options here. I think that option 1 is we try to like crack gold. We like trophy shot this potentially. We can like trophy shot, crack gold, send 10. But it leaves us without an arsenal, which is really painful. And we don't have any 3 oaks left, which is awkward. I think we've used 1 or 2 codexes. So either the block here is like block 5 from hand, or we just give armor plus 3 block. I think I like the idea of like maybe we just give Yellowfin plus armor and make them deal. I kind of like the idea of keeping the battering bolt though. I guess we could also be going for like a Goldfin here. Hey, that's alright because we at least get to like keep the gold. We need a blue off the top though. Interesting. Curious to see what we do here. So we're looking for a blue. Okay, we hit the blue. So, okay, I think we definitely went. All right, so we sent Yellowfin instead of the Goldfin there. Hold on, was that intentional? So we could have just sent the Goldfin here, because this is not a relevant on hit, but we could give it an extra +2 basically. Okay, we undo here. Okay, hold on, let me fast forward. Oh, wait, do we undo? Hold on. I don't think we undo. I think we're supposed to undo there. I don't know if we actually did, though. Because this now sets us up for a really awkward no arsenal, no gold. So this is like kind of one of the fail states of Marlin. But we actually, for having a fail state hand, this is actually not that bad because we can at least go like cheating Murderous Rebel. Yeah, that was unfortunately a little bit of a punt, Cat Senpai, but it's okay. Everyone punts. It's not like a big deal. This is actually like the best hand to have when you don't have a reload and you don't have gold. So what we do here is we block with Sift and then we send cheating Murderous Rebel and then we arsenal the Kraken there, which actually maybe means we can potentially win this game. But we need to block something here to deny the Brave Forge swing. Okay, they have Beat of Iron Song. Interesting, so they get over the top here. So I guess we're gonna have to like give 2 cards anyways here. I think we just like block this out. I think we block this out and say like force our opponent to do something, right? Well, we definitely want to try to hold on to the Kraken. You can also just sift the cheating. You can sift the cheating, but like It's so card negative to do that though, and you're also like gambling for a blue off the top. I think we kind of just price ourselves into blocking out there. Now the question is, do we want to block out again? We can block 5 here and keep the 2 blues for Hammerhead. But part of my greedy little brain says that we almost like don't want to block. I don't know. Do I? I think it's probably correct to block here. As much as it pains me to like block with this hand, you probably have to do it just because you're gonna like give them extra cards and a counter. I don't know if I like the block. I think it's like reasonable to try to say that they don't have anything here, but a lot of times they do end up having something here and you still kind of lose anyways. This is interesting. I feel like this is like a lot of series of mistakes that kind of put us into this position that we didn't necessarily need to like do. I can see like pros and cons to blocking or not blocking here, but I kind of think that in order to like maximize the chances of winning the game, we have to hope that they basically have nothing there and that we can just win from that point. Because giving them the extra +5 there is pretty rough. But I'm curious to see where this leads us to, because we do have 16 with the hook, probably. So this ends up being like pretty okay. Oh, we should definitely hook this though. Almost 100%, because I mean, the gold might not matter at this point in the game, but like, we kind of need every little crumb of value we can get, right? There's like almost no way they're blocking on 16. Like, even if they have like multiple D reacts and attack reacts in hand, it's still like a pretty big number. I don't hate this. Like, this is not like necessarily the worst thing in the world. I do think I would just like go for the less greedy line here, but the less greedy line also means you potentially get blown out. So I don't know. There's like, it depends very much on, I guess, like what they have in that spot. I think they haven't seen a ton of reprise at this point. So like maybe this is still like maybe it's fine to block. All right, we get a double rip, which is, or sorry, just single rip, which is really good. So we have Unsheathed, Warrior's Valor, and then a Twinning Blade. So I think what I would do here is take the Unsheathed, as it's basically just Unsheathed. Hold on, Unsheathed triggers on Dawnblade, right? Or it triggers on that Dawnblade because it's +1. Hold on, how does Unsheathed work? Is it greater than double or double? If it's greater than twice its base, it gets go again. So they have a counter, so it would be greater than twice its base. So this means the Unsheathed would give go again. So we take the Unsheathed because we want to make them spend an extra resource here. That's the answer. But we will see how this ends up going here. Okay, so we saw a line, that's good. All right, we have Warrior's Valor into 7. This is a kind of a crappy spot to be in. We have to be careful about Iron Song in Arsenal, because I think we die to this. Like, I think I'm just... it's hard, because I think you maybe just want to block 9. Okay, it looks like they had the Iron Song, unfortunate. So actually, I think the turn that I was debating whether or not we block with the cheating and the gold to tip, I think we get blown out there anyways, because that was the leftover card in hand. I think it was, unless there was the CNC or whatever. But that's a little bit unfortunate. We lost to Iron Song, which is fine. But I think that there are like a lot of series of plays that we could have made to actually like not put ourselves in this position, which is like good to note, I guess, for future games. So I think overall, like definitely some room for improvement, but like not any like... So I think the hands were like a little bit challenging, is what I would say in this game. I don't think that these were necessarily like super intuitive hands. It just kind of takes a little bit of a keen eye to kind of like figure out, like, especially the early hands are super important because I think they like kind of snowballed towards the inevitable conclusion, I guess. There are a lot of points where I should have just taken IP and kept 3-Oak. Yeah, IPing, I think 3-Oak is like pretty valuable. I value it pretty highly, at least, because it lets you like block 6 and then maybe just like send like 10 or whatever. Like it's just good math to resolve your 3 of a kinds. I still kind of disagree with arsenaling the shallow water on that opening turn though. I think I would just like not Honing Hood and just pass, and then like play Catch of the Day and just see what I draw. Because like that also means you're still sending like shallow for 11, then you get to like arsenal a 3 of a kind, which is really good. I don't know. That's just me though. I feel like there's definitely some merit, as Nate was saying, to kind of potentially Arsenal to Shallow Water, but overall not like the worst game in the world. I think that was like a fine showing. All right, let's get to our next game here. Chat, do we want to do an Olympia game or do we want to do a Phi game? What are we feeling? I kind of feel like we've been doing a lot of Warriors, so maybe let's try to go back to the Phi game. Let's see, because Phi is at least a bit more interesting than I think the Warrior matchup almost always kind of ends up being the same. Yeah, let's do the Phi matchup. All right, so let's go ahead and shrink this. Well, I gotta adjust OBS real quick. Too much Warrior, yeah. The Warrior matchups are fun to dissect though, but I do think that they are a little tiring to talk about after a while. Okay, let's do a Phi. So we got a nice little 25-minute Phi game, so I'll try to speed this up. Okay. How do we sideboard into Phi? They are going to go first. We're going to go second. We have the Honing Hood. Okay, so we have a good setup here. I think we're just running like the normal board, I imagine, with the Swells maybe, and also with the Krakens. Okay, so let's see how this ends up going here. Hold on, let me try to rewind. Okay, so we have, starting off with the Ronin Renegade. Okay, not too bad. I think I like the idea of just like trying to block with the King Shark at some point this turn, just so that we can potentially like Honing Hood the Codex into Arsenal and then just set it up that way. I think we probably just end up giving. Do we want to give 2 cards or? Oh, we don't block with Codex. I think we. So this is a trick. I think what we want to do is I think we want to try to resolve the Codex ideally here, and then we like block with the King Shark, so we put it in our graveyard, that kind of thing. I think that's better generally. There's some arguments to not doing that, I guess, but I don't know if they're super compelling. But yeah, Codex is always just good value. Drawing a card at the end of your turn, always super good in Marlin. Because doing it this way is like a little bit weirder. But we'll see where this game ends up leading us here. Alright, so we're at least honing in the Shark, which is like micro optimization, I think a little bit better. Oh, okay, wait. Okay, wait, actually 10,000 IQ. Oh, we actually made the super smart play, apparently. So we didn't actually fall for the Codex trap. We actually arsenaled that. We try to keep the King Shark to play around Warmongers. I guess that works. Maybe this is better. Damn, that was actually a very smart play. I actually think this is maybe better than my play. If we, like, know that the Phi's on Warmongers, I think this is better. It kind of depends. Like, maybe I haven't played this matchup enough. Maybe all the Phi's are on Warmongers. And maybe this gets a little bit better. But I think this actually ended up, like, working out. Yeah, this is a 6-head play. I think it very much depends on, like, how much Phi ends up running Warmonger. I guess like it's a deck that does. Okay, I don't mind this then. This is fine. Maybe this is better than my play. That's okay though. Okay, so interesting pitch decision here. That was actually a super heads up play. I actually really like that play a lot. Now the question is, what do we do next here? I kind of like prioritizing the Redfin over the King Kraken, but Phi does run some number of non-attacks, as we saw with that last hand. So I kind of like the idea of like overpitching the Kraken and sending Red Lure, but it looks like we're going to go for the Kraken instead. Okay, so this actually ended up being like a really good play. That's my bad. I think it's pretty safe to assume that your opponent generally doesn't end on Warmongers there, but like I think that if you want to like do the maximum, like the super heads up play, I think that's probably it. I think that's a really good play. I actually like that play a lot. I think if you don't have Warmongers, for what it's worth, I think the Codex play is a little bit better. But this is like getting rewarded for taking like kind of a suboptimal line, which is kind of cool. All right, so we get to hit with the King Shark, and what are our choices here? So we have Flame Call Awakening, Inflame the Firebrand, Oath of Loyalty, and the Art of Phoenix War. Okay, what do we take here? I would probably say that we just take the Oath of Loyalty as the 0 for 4. because the other cards basically like don't do anything. So we'll see what we end up taking here. Interesting. I think it's almost certainly Oath. Okay, we saw the Oath. That's good. Oh, Taylor Crawford, big fan of the channel. Welcome, Taylor. We're doing some Marlin VOD reviewing. But yeah, that was a really cool line. Taylor, I don't know if you missed it, but basically, we had the choice between blocking with a King Shark and a Codex on turn 1. And instead of blocking with the King Shark to like put it in graveyard for Codex, we played around Warmongers and we like hooded the King Shark in after our 5 opponent played Warmongers, which is really heads up. So they made a better play than I would have probably made, which is kind of cool. All right, so our opponent's hand is like basically non-functional here. We can maybe try to just block 3 with like the Shallow Water, or we could try to set it up for next turn. I think both are fine. So our opponent's just going to attack him for 3. We don't really care. Looks like we block with the Shallow Water there, which I think is okay. Like, we don't necessarily need to Arsenal as like a super high priority, but it's not bad. Like, we also can just like eat the 3 there, keep an extra card, and I think Shallow Water is generally pretty good against Fi. All right, so let's keep going. Rose is in every Discord. That's very funny. All right, let's see. So we catch of the day, send the Kraken in for 12. We're gonna hook this, which I think is reasonable. Our opponent does still have a lot of armor, so we could potentially get blown out by D-Reacts. But it looks like we end up connecting here. Our opponent just blocks with the Flight Path. All right, no non-attacks, which is fine. It's King Kraken, so unlikely to hit. I think basically our hits are like Warmongers, and then I forget what the other card is, like the Rise from the Ashes or something. They can play that one as well, but we're already ahead 20 points of life, which is really good. So now we just need to make sure we survive the Art of Phoenix War turn, which I think is this turn, basically, right? All right, let's see what we got here. So they're also playing a Rake this turn. I think they have Art of Phoenix War in Arsenal, right? And they also have Tunic up, so this is potentially a pretty big turn. Also, did we have the option to run Quick Dodge in this matchup? I don't know if this is still a Quick Dodge matchup. I don't know if any matchup is a Quick Dodge matchup anymore. Yeah, I generally like to prioritize Redfin, I think, over the Kraken. That's one note there, because we could have like stripped apart their hand really bad. But this is still okay, because we're like sending damage. It's not like the worst thing in the world. All right, what are we doing here? It looks like we're potentially just trying to block out a bit this turn, which I think is reasonable, but giving up the tempo into Fi is a little suspect. I guess there's not really like tempo to be had though with a King Kraken though. So what do we end up doing? Okay, we block some more. Fi opponent does a lot of damage to us. Okay, I might have skipped a little too far. All right, so we try to keep the King Kraken. Interesting. Do we want to keep King Kraken? Because, like, I don't think we necessarily do. It's not very compelling, especially when we have, like, Codexes we can draw into, 3 Oaks we can draw into. I almost like the idea of just, like, walking extra 3 that turn and saying, like, no Arsenal. Plus, we have the gold. I guess this does play around... Oh, there's Rise from the Ashes is the other non-attack that we can trigger. So this ends up being, like, okay, but it's still... I don't love just sending King Kraken. Interesting. All right, we have Fire that Burns Within, pitching a Sink below, so that's pretty good for us, but we're still probably going to be taking a lot of damage this turn. Potentially, we're still worried about Warmongers. We do have a Sunken Treasure block, which notably in this matchup can be used to flip Phoenix Flame, but that being said, we kind of need it for our blue this hand, so I don't know if we can necessarily afford to do that. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit more. Okay, we have a Lynx trigger. Do they opt to go for it? Looks like they're skipping that for now. Okay, Ronin Renegade. We block it. Blocking with the Trophy Shot is interesting. I don't know if I like that Trophy Shot block, but it's like fine. I don't know if it is fine. I think I want the extra +4 there if we just want to try to kill them as fast as possible, but the King Kraken is not necessarily conducive to that. Okay, so more Phoenix Flames, or potentially... Okay, wait, they didn't pop links. Looks like they just Phoenix Flame end of the turn. Okay. So we're still kind of in a rough spot here, especially because we got rid of the Trophy Shot. We could be -3 life for additional Trophy Shot value, which Trophy Shot could turn into like a +7 this turn, which is kind of funny. Because if we like draw a buff or like we draw a blue, we do the tunic thing. Interesting, interesting. Coming in for 10, they D-react, which is fine. Kind of curious that we didn't hook that, because like King Kraken by itself is not super disruptive. So we could actually potentially have like an extra gold here as well. Then what is our opponent's hand? Actually, let's kind of mouse over that. So we have blue, Oath of Loyalty, Rising, Resentment, and a Phoenix Flame. So their hand is like pretty bad. So I'm kind of expecting that we try to capitalize on this tempo a little bit. Because their hand is kind of stinky. That being said, they could actually like links to get rid of the Phoenix Flame with the fire that burns within. Alright, hand doesn't block super great, but that's okay. In an ideal world, we'd get to like Catch of the Day on the King Shark, but we might not actually have that much life to work with here. I don't know if I like blocking this early. Because we're probably going to be able to block 3 on a future chain link, which might deny like Assault or something this turn. Some interesting lines here. Alright, we have Sword Swing, that's fine. Phoenix Flame, or they're playing the Phoenix Flame out. That's surprising. Or they're getting double Phoenix Flame. Alright, so we give 2 cards there. The question is, do we need to give those 2 cards though? Maybe we did for like links purposes, but I think we could have actually maybe tried to hold on to that Catch of the Day and just try to send like King Shark for like 12 or 15. Especially it's pretty good with the Ataya as well. So I'm almost wondering if we're playing like a little too passive here. Okay, we have a 3-oak as well. That's good. So we keep the 3-oak, I think, so that lets us potentially arsenal like a Redfin. Wait, why are we bottoming 3-oak? Huh. I think we want that 3-oak, right? Because the 3-oak lets us keep an arsenal. Alright, we better top that. Hold on. Do we not top it? Oh, we don't? Wait, what? Okay, that's a little bit too much for me. I think we almost always want to just keep the 3-oak there. I don't think there's really a compelling reason to not do that, because it lets us save gold and also set an arsenal. Alright, we'll keep going. But a little bit suspect here. I think we want to try to set the Redfin. Like, I don't know if we're going to have another turn realistically. But I think this turn could have been a lot better. It's a little rough. Like, I think if we kept the Catch of the Day, we went 3 less life that turn, we go to 8. Then we get to send, like, King Shark, Rip 3-oak, Arsenal, Redfin. And now we're just sending, like, 13 instead. I think there was, like, a much cooler line here, unfortunately. Alright, so we send in 10. And, okay, our opponent has, like, a pretty mediocre hand here. So they have Blaze Headlong, Spreading Flames, Phoenix Form, and a Phoenix Flame. What does Phoenix Form say again? It's only go again if they have, like, 2 of them, right? Phoenix Form. If you control 1 or more Phoenix Flames, it gets go again. If you control 2 or more, it has +2. And if you control 3 or more, it is when this hits draw 3 cards. So this is basically 0 for 3 right now. So I think what we do is we just take the Blaze Headlong here. I don't like that we're mousing over the Phoenix Form. Spreading Flames is also kind of tempting because Tunic is up. But I don't know if that actually ends up mathing out to more value. Maybe it does. But you have to, like, you're not getting the sword then as well. I feel like I would not complicate this, and I would just take the Blaze Headlong. But it kind of depends. discard the flame here. What is in the arsenal? I don't know. Do we know what's in the arsenal, chat? I might be forgetting that. Wait, whoa. Wait, why are we discarding the flame? Hmm. Wait, chat, why are we discard spreading there? I think spreading is probably mathematically more value because we do have Tunic up. It's between Tunic and Blaze, right? Like, I don't think there's really a compelling reason to discard the Phoenix Flame there. Yeah, I think it's discard. I think I like discarding the spreading, chat, because we do have Tunic up, so you're probably getting at least 5 value out of that, and every point matters at this point because we're kind of low. Okay, I think I like the spreading. But I don't think Phoenix Flame is ever correct there, right? Sorry, we're getting to the point of the stream where I'm like questioning my sanity on some of these plays. But it's okay. Alright, we block with the cheating, so we're maybe just trying to like close the game out here. Maybe even end up giving like a sunken block here. Oh, it's the I think the Rising Resentment was an Arsenal. Interesting. So yeah, Blaze Headlong and then the Phoenix form. So that ends up being, I guess it's like the math is actually the same between the Blaze Headlong and the Spreading Flames here. I don't think it actually, it's like 4 either way, I think. But it obviously kind of depends on the arsenal. I guess it also depends on the links. All right, let's see what our opponent does here. Imagine this is going to be the link's turn. Okay, interesting. Blaze Headlong. We pop links, and what do we do with links? Maybe get like an Inflame would be kind of a juicy draw. Or like a juicy hit. Okay, we get a Lava Burst. That's also pretty good. I was thinking we get Inflame for like the Phoenix form, but I guess it doesn't really matter, right? It's still just like 0 for 4, go again. This is awkward. I think we have to like give the full hand here, right? At least I don't think there's a way that we don't give the full hand, yeah. Alright, I feel like this game was definitely winnable. I think with a little bit better gold management we get there. But yeah, I think now we're kind of just in the losing cycle, unfortunately. That's okay though. Oh, did someone give a Plague Hive in the chat? That's funny. Okay, I think that game was winnable. Unfortunately, I think our misplays ended up costing us a bit there. And I think the misplays were just the gold management on the one turn where we tried to 3-oak, right? Or do we bottomed to the 3-oak, and that made us crack gold for like an arsenal, which is not ideal. I think there are definitely some awkward things that game, like seeing the Krakens were definitely pretty rough as well. But I do give you credit, at least for this game. I think that playing arsenaling the King Shark was actually better than my play in the opening hand. So we played around Warmongers, which was really good, and then we also got to send 10 on the opener, which is pretty impactful. Okay, so I think that ends up being like a pretty good game. Let me see what other games we have. Hold on. So we have also a Hala and an Acilio game. Or sorry, sorry, I can't even say words anymore. We have a Hala, and then we also have a Olympia game. I might just do the Olympia game because the Hala game I think is like 48 minutes. Well, let's see if I can load up the Olympia game real quick. Give me 1 second. Let me like zoom this back out a bit. All right, so this is coming to us from Velvet. So I think this might be the last. So this could either be the last game of the night, or we could also go back and watch some of the Hamburg Marlin as well to kind of wrap it up. We're gonna see how I feel. Okay, so we have this Olympia. Let me make sure this is like the right size. We'll kind of see as we kind of get into the game here. I think this should be good. Let's try that. All right. We have the choice of die roll into Olympia. I would say I generally prefer second in this matchup, so you can just Toning Hood. But you can get punished by Olympia for doing that. So we'll see. I feel like I prefer second in this matchup, but I think it is kind of close between first and second because Olympia can present a ton of damage on turn one. Kind of depends, I guess, on my mood, but I think they're pretty close overall. All right, Kraken battering looks good. I still kind of treat this as a bit of a tempo matchup. So in the case of a tempo matchup, going second is pretty much always correct. Okay, so we have Codex, Battering Bolt, Redfin. Not a great opener. I kind of think we just like gamble to Quiver here, and then we just like IP with the Battering Bolt, and then keep Codex in Arsenal. It's at least the immediate line I see, but I'm curious to see what we end up doing here. Definitely feels like a Quiver gambling situation. All right, let's see what the play is. So we activate Quiver. Oh, but we're not overpitching a Battering Bolt here, which I think is wrong. So we have the option to get one extra filtering here, get a Battering Bolt out of our hand, and then block with the other Battering Bolt. So I don't love this play because then we're straining our hand. Either what we're doing is we're straining our hand with a Battering Bolt plus a Codex, which is not ideal, or we're straining it with two Battering Bolts, which is even like worse. So this is really awkward. But I think I like overpitching the Battering Bolt there. Okay, we hit a Yellowfin, which is like not the worst thing in the world. And then we can just like load a Battering Bolt face down IP with the Codex. I think this ends up being fine. I think there's like a micro optimization there of like pitching the extra Battering Bolt just to filter like one card deeper. But we will see what they end up doing here. All right, so it looks like we Arsenal. Wait, what? Do we just? Oh, we play out the Codex? I guess we do this for. Interesting. I don't like this, but I don't. Okay, this is breaking my brain a little bit. I think what we do, like, I think resolving Codex for value is obviously like the best thing we can kind of do in our deck. So facilitating that is very important. So just using it for 1 point of value here feels very suspect. That's kind of what I would say. I think it's generally better, like Codex is like better than just like a frailty token a lot of the time. So if we can ever resolve Codex for better than a frailty token, even if we have to take a little bit of setup, I think it's generally worth to do so. But that is technically a legal play you can make. All right, so we have the Battering Bolts in Arsenal. What's up? We love yellow Frail Swing Line. Yeah, Tasha, that's kind of how I feel about that play. I kind of like the idea. This is also just a really weird spot to be in because like now you're sending Battering Bolts at face and like arsenaling another Yellowfin while you already have a Yellowfin face up. Oh, this just feels so awkward. All right, I think like it's kind of hard to like dig into the misplays because they're like an issue I guess I'm having is it feels like there's compounding misplays here, right? Like the misplay of like playing the Codex is like compounding with this hand of like not drawing a great arsenal to keep with your New Horizons. So like the misplays end up adding to each other, which in a way that I don't know if it's necessarily like constructive to comment on. But like here the play is to either Murderous Rabble send Battering Bolts, or alternatively we like double Arsenal Yellowfin, which is also terrible. Yeah, I don't love either play here really. I think I like the idea of just like keeping the Arsenal open maybe and just like sending Murderous Rabble. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to Arsenal Yellowfin. Okay, we're arsenaling Sift instead. I feel like Sift is kind of a mid Arsenal. The Arsenal should be Sift. But like why? I feel like Sift is like so bad. I'd honestly rather just like send Murderous Rabble than Arsenal Sift. Like, it just feels like it's not a card that converts super well. Like, you have to go card negative in order to play it, right? It just feels like so mid. But, like, maybe it's fine. I think I'd rather just, like, not even have the arsenal here, though. Like, I'd almost rather just send, like, Murderous Rabble, try to gamble in the +3, and then just send Battering Bolts and keep the Elephant here. It's, like, super awkward. Alright, they have the block. Like, I don't really like arsenaling Sift, especially when we have, like, no gold, and it's just, like, kind of card negative. I guess it, like, kind of ends up maybe working out here. It's still pretty weird. We can, like, sift the trophy shot away and try to, like, gamble on a buff off the top or just some other random card we can play. You can also just block with the trophy shot here if they're presenting damage, which I think is probably better. Then we have to, like, clear the sift out of Arsenal, which is weird here. That's why I don't really like arsenaling sift. It's because, like, we now can't really block with the trophy shot, right? We drew a codex, which is really good, but now we can't actually, like, use the codex super effectively. I guess we could, like, sift double bottom these two, but it's still, like, card negative to do so. Alright, we'll see what ends up happening, but I feel like the trophy shot is not really doing us a ton of favors on this hand. It's weird, though. Like, this is why I kind of don't like prioritizing Sift as an arsenal very much. Alright, so do we have a yellow that we're turning over? Because another line here could be that we're going to, like, sift away the trophy shop for a blue or something, play Codex, do that. Okay, we have the Codex yellow. Sure. Oh yes, yellow swing line, of course. So this ends up being fine, but this is just, like, so low value. Ugh. It hurts my little Marlin heart to see, I don't know, just kind of like a mid-turn here. It's not like that bad though, because we can, like, at least sift for +1 resource, but it's like we're using a full card to do that, which I don't love. Alright, so we're definitely sifting the trophy shot here, right? Almost assuredly, and just gambling on the blue. I think that's the only reasonable line here. Because we want to play the Codex so that we can just keep chaining double Arsenal together. The nice part is we do have a lot of the armor out of the way. Goldfin Sift is fine. The only issue with Goldfin Sift isn't... So the problem with Goldfin Sift is, like, what do you end up doing with this trophy shot is the issue, right? Because, like, if you don't draw an arrow, then you're not double loading. If you do draw an arrow, then you can double Arsenal, but, like, it feels, like, so risky. I don't know if I like this. I guess we could... Oh, okay, we can sift both the Goldfin and Trophy Shot. Maybe that's fine. Okay, I don't hate that, actually. Because then we were, like, gambling and then we're drawing a buff, which I think is okay. We do have Tunic up, that's true. I feel like this doesn't even help us all that much, right? Based on our draws. Like, this feels like we're doing a bunch of, like, card negative plays to do more card negative plays. I don't know. I think this is fine. Fire blue Arsenal Codex. Yeah, I guess so. This feels so mid, is my only complaint. Like, this is, like, a fine turn, but it's just not, like, a very... I don't like not resolving Codex. It feels very weird. Like, it feels like we just did a bunch of awkward things to, like, send 8 damage. I don't know. Feels a little suspect. We gave up a Rabble attack to turn a Yellowfin into a blue. But we did that at the cost of 3 damage, right? We did that at the cost of 3 damage and a gold. Which I think is really awkward. So, like, it's... We turned something into a blue, but we had to, like, spend a gold to do that? I don't know if that's good. Especially gold that we didn't have, right? Like, if we had the starting gold, I think we had to block with Sunken that turn, right? So, like, if we had a gold that we knew that we are going to sift into, then that play gets a lot better, right? But because we didn't know that we are going to draw into the Sunken Treasure to make the gold fin, then that play is, like, very suspect, because now sift is not even card neutral, it's, like, card negative, right? So I just feel like all these plays are just super awkward. But we'll keep watching. All right, Bluff Catcher. Ooh, this might be a good opportunity to just block out. Okay, actually, sorry. We cannot block out because we have Dominate, right? So we unfortunately cannot block this turn. Awkward deck into 8 damage with the Marlin special. It doesn't need to be the Marlin special, though. I don't know. Oh, what are we doing here? So I think we block with Kraken, and that's it. We're not going to win this wager. I don't think there's any world where we win the wager, right? So we block with Kraken, we play Catch of the Day, and then we pitch the Big Game Trophy Shot and the Elephant to Hammerhead and pull Tunic. Because that lets us send Kraken for 12 and block 3. So 15 damage, not bad. I still don't know if I agree with the SIP line. Like, the SIP line just seems like so hoop jumpy. Alright, so we're taking 8 here. We're losing the wager, which means they also get to 5 intellect, which is pretty rough. Okay, let's see. So I'm assuming we're gonna go for... Oh, please don't play Trophy Shot. Don't do it. Are we doing it? Okay, we're playing Codex. Wait, what? Wait, are we doing Codex before? Okay, so this is just minus 12, or this is minus 2. So that's unfortunate. I think if we just use Tunic, we don't have to, like, actually destroy a card to Codex. We can just pitch the yellow, pitch the blue, Catch of the Day, send Kraken for 12, and be in basically the same spot. This is a little unlucky, I think. Okay, they have double sync below. Oh, if we had the extra +2 there, I think that would actually been huge. Because we at least force, like, another card from them here, and they get a 3-card hand. Yeah, the Catch of the Day would have been super good there. Unfortunate. Okay, what is our Ponder? Well, let me go back. Alright, we get our Ponder. Alright, Ponder and Trophy Shot's not bad. That is a good start. We just need to make sure we're not dying on the road to doing that, though. I think this is definitely, like, a pretty winnable position from here, though. Like, not the worst spot in the world, I don't think. Oh, triple check raise is kind of scary, though. So what does this mean? It means that we're going to wager on the prize gallo, which is kind of funny. Okay, so we basically have 10 or 11 damage reaction speed, I believe, because I think 2 of these are yellows, right? So I don't think we're ever winning this wager unless we want to, like, give the full hand. But then they get to, like, keep the prize gallo, which is also kind of weird. Feels rough. And especially makes it harder to block out because we have the Eye of Ophidia in hand. If we didn't have the Eye, this actually would have been a lot better. This means we destroy both of our arsenals, so I don't think that seems great. Definitely getting pretty awkward. Alright, Gollopop pumps for +10, or +11 rather. So this is not going particularly well. But we do have Trophy Shot on our turn, so let's at least see how that ends up going. We have Eye here, also not bad. So let's start with the trophy shot and just see what's up. I think is the main line here. I guess we do want to make a gold pin first. Okay, we're not making a gold pin here. Why are we not making a gold pin? We definitely want to play the I guess we don't have to play the trophy shot out, but I kind of want to play the trophy shot out. Trophy shot is typically pretty good. I guess we're double bottoming the reds because we drew a swell. Okay, this is potentially the start of an interesting turn. But if we don't have the swell, it's really bad. Okay. I think the line there almost assuredly is just to play trophy shot and not overcomplicate it too much. I think resolving trophy shot is very important, especially with just having like access to gold pins. So we end up sending just yellow pin for 8, which is not very exciting, but we do get a hook on it. Or did we make a gold this turn? This might even be a risky hook. I wasn't paying attention. Okay, looks like we end up hitting though, so maybe it doesn't matter. Okay, we drew a Kraken. That's good. We're Googling double down. That's okay. All right, double down. Says overpower. Yep. All right, so it's okay. Okay, we're potentially thinking about shoving the fridge here, but the issue with shoving the fridge is we lose the trophy shot. So I think what we need to do here is just accept that we're going to like 3, and then we just send 17. That's probably the play. Because no amount of blocking is going to actually stop this. Looks like we gave armor, but we did keep the full hand, so we do get some bonus points for that at least. So this ends up being okay, I think. So we trophy shot. Wait, okay, hold on. Pause. The reason the trophy shot is like in the deck and why it's very strong is because we get to make gold fins to trophy shot. So this is maybe something that people are still getting used to, or just now learning. But the combo. So I'm gonna try to do this in kind of like a little bit of constructive way. I think that whenever you want to resolve trophy shot, you almost always want to make a gold fin to discard to the trophy shot. That's what basically like offsets the cost of it and why it's so good. If you're using like actual cards to discard, then you're like losing value, right? So always important to make a gold fin before we actually trophy shot here, which I think is not what happens. So let's go ahead and see here real quick. So yeah, we almost always, like you see here, we're not actually cracking the Golden Marlin. We almost always want to crack a gold there, so that way we get an extra functionally +3 here, which is really good. So we Arsenal. Okay, this is fine. So we could have been +3 here, which would have maybe helped us kind of claw our way back this game. Because I think we are definitely a little bit behind based on some of our decisions we kind of made. But 17 versus 24, so that would put us to 7 versus 6, 6-7, if you will, in chat. So that would make this game a little bit closer. I think we do also have 3 oaks potentially still left. So it looks like we get our choice here. Oh wait, actually, was Iron Song the right choice there? Hold on, what are our options? We have Big Slick Blue, which is just a +3 pump. Then we have Iron Song, which is Dominate, which is scary, but we actually do have like armor and a fridge to potentially block it out, so I don't actually know if that's the correct pick. I think I'm like, interesting here. Does Visit the Prize Room has Go Again, right? I'm not imagining that. Hold on. Visit the Prize Room. I believe that card has Go Again, right? So they can just play that out, get a helmet back, which is really good. I think it actually might be correct to take the Big Slick here, just because it's between the Big Slick and the Visit the Prize Room. I think value-wise, it might be better to take the Visit the Prize Room. Because like this is +3, but you don't care. And then you can just shove Fridge in front of Dominate. So I think I like just taking the Prize Room here. Maybe. But the awkward part is then Big Slick will draw you a card, because this is going to be coming in for 7, assuming that they don't pitch the gold here. Or I think there's even Mike tokens as well. So maybe it's still Big Slick, and then you just take the loss on letting them get back a piece of armor. I think it's like a close decision between these two. But I think like leaving them with the Iron Song is like actually fine, because you want to kind of block with your New Horizons next turn anyways. I guess this does give you like more flexibility, which is kind of valuable. I got a buy into a Valda and then Ziggy tonight. It was a rough night. The Ziggy game was close. Yeah, Valda's pretty tough. I think Ziggy also is pretty tough. Like two pretty tough matchups. Okay, so we took the Iron Song, which does actually mean that this is like a little bit easier to block. But the issue is now... actually, we do have like a pretty good block here. Actually, maybe taking the Iron Song was like fine here. I think I actually come around on maybe taking the Iron Song there. Because this lets us like full block with New Horizons and Tunic, and then we get to keep a 2-card hand and a pile of gold. I don't know if I necessarily like these blocks though, like Redfin and C4 Salvage. I kind of want to cash in the New Horizons block value while also keeping tempo, because tempo is very important in this matchup. So I like the idea here of maybe just shoving 9 and holding onto Redfin and just trying to crack our way to victory. So I think the line here is keep Catch of the Day, keep Redfin, block C4 Salvage Sift, and then Tunic New Horizons. But it looks like we're giving the full hand here, and the only problem with giving the full hand is then we're trying to keep an arsenal when we want to New Horizons anyways, right? Okay, maybe we see the line anyways. Maybe this is fine. So we don't keep the Redfin, which I think is like a failsafe in case we end up just drawing a bunch of blues but no arrows. But I like holding the Redfin there. Oh, and we also get, oh sorry, we get the Big Slick draw as well, so we actually get a 3-card hand, so this is actually really good. I think I actually like taking the Iron Song there. Yeah, I think Iron Song is better because we know about the Big Slick, and if they want to resolve the Big Slick, then we can use that to our advantage, right? Okay, I think the Iron Song is actually the correct pick there. I've come around on it. I think that is a better line than what I had. Okay, we drew 3 oak. That's pretty good. So now we catch the day 3 oak, hope to draw an arrow. Pretty much the line here. Don't think there's anything much more complicated than that. Okay, looks like we crack additional gold here. We cracked 2 gold, maybe looking for like a buff or something more impactful, which I think is also reasonable. So we draw Codex. Codex can be discarded to gold. Okay, I don't actually hate this either, because this at least lets us resolve a Kraken, and then they I actually haven't kept track of if they have any attack actions. I assume they probably don't. But I think I want to grab the Kraken here as just the most impactful card. And we... Wait, where are we getting a Shallow Water? Oh, I think our opponent doesn't keep an... So our opponent's not getting an Arsenal, so Shallow Water is kind of a rough pickup here. So sending Shallow here is really awkward, because now we're not even potentially stripping cards from hand here. I think this is maybe just a misplay on their end. Like, they didn't know that Codex was like getting back nothing from their side. That's unfortunate. I think this is maybe just like a newer player, which is fine. It happened. Like, it's definitely a harder deck to like pick up. Oh yeah, it looks like they're saying whoops. Yeah, I think they might have just forgot that there wasn't a Shallow Water there. That's okay. This probably unfortunately does lose us the game though. Yeah, it happens. It's not a big deal. Okay, so we're gonna looks like block 6 here. Hope our opponent doesn't have like up the ante or some way to block, but if they don't, then we actually kind of win this anyways. So maybe all is not lost. So we play out our gold to tip, we 3 oak, and we can still potentially kind of win here. So definitely some micro optimizations here, but I think we still end up winning. Also maybe because our Olympia opponent kind of mismanaged their gold a little bit. So let's see here. Okay, we draw Battering. Or I guess Red Lure is probably going to close the game a little bit faster, right? Play Red Lure instead. Then we get to save the battering for next turn and just hope we can try to kill here. But I believe this will do it. Could end up hooking here because it's not going to matter. But I think this is fine. All right, they do have at least one D-React here. Okay, but they don't have another D-React, so that was the game. Okay, definitely some room for improvement there. I think there are definitely some awkward decision points, but I think we could have, like, definitely not, like, the worst game in the world. I think there's definitely, like, a lot of good room for improvement there. Let me actually see. Hold on. I'm going to... How are we feeling, chat? I think we have time for maybe one more VOD review. And this is going to be, like, kind of a special one. So this is going to be from the Calling Hamburg stream. I'm going to try to pull this up here. Let me go ahead and see if I can grab that game, because I think this is actually... so this is from the Marlin who top-8'd. We're feeling great? Okay, I'm glad you're feeling great, Ben. Let's go ahead and go to Calling... What was the Calling? Hold on, let me just search Flesh and Blood. It's Hamburg, right? Alright, Rose is saying one more. Let's do one more. Okay, so we're going to go to Calling Hamburg, and then we're going to go to day 2 and top 8. Hold on. I'm on the wrong Calling. Let me find the recent one. Wait, where is Calling Hamburg? I might not see. Oh, these are the scheduled ones. Okay. All right, I found Calling Hamburg. I've been waiting for some commentary on this game. This is a very exciting game. I remember watching this, so this is very cool. So let's go ahead and go to, it's an Acilio, or I believe it was a Acilio game, right? Not imagining that. Okay, where is that Acilio game? Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Oh, okay. We have, okay, we found the game. Let me go ahead and pop this up. So let me add window capture here, Calling game. All right, let me go ahead and just crop this up real quick. Get rid of the YouTube chat. Okay, we got our Calling game. I just gotta send it to the back now. To bottom. Oh, too far back. We do down. Hold on, we'll get there eventually. Control down. There we go. Okay, so we have our Calling game now. Let me go ahead and just see if I can orient this on the screen correctly. A lot of prep work went into the stream, obviously. Okay, so we have our Calling game. Let's go ahead and pop this up. So let me start from the very beginning here. So I think this is really cool to kind of showcase, I guess, new technology with the Acilio matchup. And let me turn off the volume here just so it doesn't bother me. All right, so we have our top 8 Marlin, which is very exciting. So this is going to be a cool game. Looking at the spread here, this is also like a really interesting spread. So basically only picked up 1 loss to Marionette the weekend. And then we also drew against a Acilio, basically. So we have wins into Reiner, Jarl, Dash.io. Depending on the draw, Dash.io can be a little bit of a tougher matchup. But the impressive thing here is like wins into 2 Gravies, which is really cool. Wins into 2 Kasais, which is also really cool. And then wins into 2 Acilios as well. So very interesting deck, I will say, from this last Calling. I think this is definitely like a little bit of a break from like Nate or I's typically perception of Marlin. I think this deck is like kind of really interesting for this specific tournament. I do think that I have questions on how the deck will perform like long term, but I think the deck is really cool. So let's go ahead and get into it here. I'm just gonna kind of fast forward through this shuffling real quick. All right, I'm playing against another Acilio. I think this is Gonna Flash Acilio, right? Let's see. Okay, so I think we were playing against Gonna Flash Acilio. I think Gonna Flash is kind of, I don't know which I prefer generally, but I think it's a little bit tougher. But we are rocking the AB5, which is pretty good. So I think what our Marlin here is basically going to do is going to try to fatigue the Acilio, which is kind of like an interesting development. So I don't know if Acilios can necessarily... I think there's like a game plan that Acilio can present where they don't necessarily get fatigued. So I don't know how like long this will actually like work out for, but I do think it's like really cool that you can potentially like fatigue an unknowing Acilio here. So I think we have to kind of keep in mind that this is basically coming from kind of like the fatigue angle here. So it looks like we're going to go with the meteoric impact. So we'll AB2, go to even on life totals, and then just pass it back. So I'm kind of curious to see how he navigates this opening hand here, because starting with Skullcap is actually potentially a pretty severe downside, but not so severe if you're just trying to like basically fatigue your opponent. So like, if you're not really threatening to present a ton of damage to your opponent, I feel like it does make sense to just pass and see what they do. So this is really interesting. So basically, the Marlin's not playing this, like, not trying to race the Acilio on his own terms, basically. They're basically trying to throw damage in front of Acilio so that you can incidentally fatigue basically through all of the cycling that Acilio does, which is really cool. So this is very exciting, because this is, I think, the first time that we've kind of seen this strat. I think Nate has also been... Once he realized he was being fatigued, it was too late. Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it, Wes. It's just like, I think that... So here's a problem with this strat, I think like long term. If Marlin ends up going in this direction where you try to like fatigue everyone, people are going to expect you to people are going to bring in game plans expecting you to fatigue, right? Is the one kind of like downside of this. So I think this is like a really interesting deck list, and probably like why it went to top 8 is because you're doing something that your opponent's not expecting, which is really powerful. Acilio's game plan was fine, but took too much damage to himself. Yeah, I think that's like kind of what I saw from the game. So we're going kind of this fatigue angle. Looks like we're also sending in the shock as well. So let's fast forward a bit here. So it looks like we take the or no, we don't take the shock damage, but we do take the one from the flittering charge. We boulder trap it. Oh, so that will actually give a counter on headpiece, which is kind of funny. Boulder trap value. I love that the opponent's also like reading boulder trap, which is very funny. All right, we're ending with an E strike. Coming in for 5, draw a card. So we're just kind of blocking out some more here. Again, it's kind of like interesting to commentate this game because it's not like we're not doing a ton of real like shooting or anything. We're kind of just being like super passive here. All right, starting with the Astral Bridge. Wait, what was that? Wait, our opponent like Astral Bridge. Wait, that was weird. Our opponent Astral Bridge and just like drew a card. Oh, sorry, they're Acilioing. Okay, that's why they're drawing a card. Lol. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, I thought our opponent was like cheating or something. That's okay. All right. Acilio, we're cycling some more cards here. Express Lightning, Flittering Charge. Again, it's like kind of hard to commentate this because it's kind of just like blocking out every turn, which is kind of funny. But we are taking like a little bit of chip damage here. 3 blocks are strong. I didn't really see what the draw off the Kindle there was. I guess we're about to find out. But it's kind of funny. It's been like 4 turns where we've not Harpoon. So this is like kind of like, I feel like an emergent strategy into Acilio is like, instead of just trying to like play fair, you basically just kind of like block out and wait until Acilio whiffs or does something. But the nice part is that if the Acilio does ever try to take like an off turn or whatever, you can kind of like punish it by sending damage from Arsenal, which is pretty strong. So this game is really cool to kind of like showcase, I guess, like the new Acilio strat. And it looks like we're giving 9 block there. Interesting. It kind of almost feels like the gravy strat to some extent, which is interesting. All right, give him more blocks. Oh, it looks like our Acilio opponent basically just sent like 4 damage. So now this is like the opportunity where Marlin can kind of crack back and actually deal some damage here. Oh wait, he's just passing. Oh wow. Not even sending damage is crazy. I guess it like kind of makes sense maybe. Like just not enable the balance of justice kind of makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. This game, I thought there was more to this game. Maybe I was like watching another game. This game is like kind of funny. Like I think we were just like, when is the first time we actually fire our pin in this game? I'm kind of curious. We also like turn off the scar for scars, which are really hilarious as well. Seeing Acilio hit himself was kind of funny. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Maybe we did at one point. Oh, to get like below the Arcanite skull cap, I guess. All right, sending a King Shark finally, which is pretty good in the spot because it looks like we have Gone and Flash in hand and Rabble and some stuff. Yeah, so kind of looks like hitting our disruption here, which is really good. So we take the Gone, makes sense. Like the Acilio might just die to damage at this point, which is kind of funny. Marlin be doing Marlin stuff is what someone says in the chat. All right, there's our shelter as well. Very funny. This game's really interesting. It's like showcasing, I guess, like what you can do in the Acilio matchup to like kind of make it less like swingy than it actually is, which I do actually like a lot, like the addition of Skullcap to make it so that if you do this like blocking strategy, basically you can kind of just throw whatever in front of the Acilio and they kind of just have to deal with it. It's pretty cool. And then if your opponent does decide to like fat deck you, then what you can also do is just like potentially not send any damage. Like you can kind of still just fatigue even the fat deck of Acilio, I think. Which makes it pretty interesting. Oh, the Acilio did it twice, which is kind of funny. That's cool. All right, looks like we're making a gold fin, pitching to gold, draw a card. Just sending 6 damage here. Yeah, this game is weird. Does the Acilio like just scoop it up at some point, or does the Acilio actually like end up dying? I forget. All right, so we just cycled Echo Flash. They might actually end up dying here. 12 to 10. So I look like we're not even like going to fatigue at this point. We're kind of just killing our Acilio opponent, which is kind of funny. Interesting. This game's really cool. All right, and we're sending now in for 16. So this is basically like the gravy matchup almost. Like the core thing of the gravy matchup was you basically just like block out, send endless until your opponent just like whiffs on something, and then you eventually send disruption face. So this is basically doing that same gravy strategy, which is kind of interesting, where you're just like blocking out and then hoping your opponent kind of like whiffs at some point. I also see Ben in the chat, which is kind of funny. But yeah, hello Ben, also in the chat and also in my chat. But yeah, it's kind of like hilarious that you can kind of just employ the gravy strat into Acilio, and there's not much they can really like do about it. That being said, our opponent still has our Greaves out, so like I feel like there's definitely something they could have done this game maybe a little bit better. But at least showcases like kind of an interesting strat. Do you think it's an indication that the power level has dropped too much if a generic 3-block and some blues can fatigue the premier aggro deck? I kind of think that's true. So, and I don't know how to spell your name in chat. Enhelode I hope that I'm pronouncing that somewhat competently.
And Halo.
And Haloed. Okay, I can't read. I'm at that point in the stream where I'm like sundowning. It's fine. Okay, in Haloed, I think that's a really good point because I think that we're going to see some very good aggro decks come out of Usurp. So I don't think that this strategy will work as well. Is my personal assumption. It's a good strat. I if they don't know it's coming. So that's like the obvious downside of this list is like, while it's really good if your opponent's like surprised, Acilio literally died. Yeah. While it's like really good if your opponent is like not expecting it, if a ton of people are now expecting that Marlon is trying to like fatigue you, I think that there's like a lot of tools that you can kind of use to beat this kind of very passive game plan. And I think this passive game plan looks like very well because it's like counterintuitive to what Marlon is trying to do, right? Because most Marlins are trying to be very aggressive. If you're trying to be aggressive, then you can kind of like also play aggressive yourself, and then your aggression tends to be a little bit better. Do you think Acilio is dead post IAR? I kind of hope so, but we'll see. Yeah, we will see. We do have a lot of spoilers coming out.
God, I hope so too.
God, I hope so too. What I will say is that if you dislike Acilio, I think that there are some very special cards coming up in the new set. That's all I'm going to say. But you will have to wait until the next, I guess, spoilers to kind of see that. But I think there's potentially some Acilio hate, maybe printed in Usurp. We'll kind of have to see. Hint, hint, chat. But anyways, so yeah, I think that this is a strat that can definitely work, but I don't know how reliable it is. Oh, Cat Senpai, 6957. Thank you for doing 2 of my VODs. I'm very new still, and I think I learned a lot. Well, I'm glad to help Cat. I think like the point of this is not to like point out any like I think we're all kind of trying to learn the game at various points, right? Like I'm not trying to I guess like shame you or anything right? Like different people are at different points in their lives, right? So like you're at a different point in your Marlin adventure, so like your plays might seem really bad or whatever, right? But like you maybe don't have like the reps that other people do. What I'm trying to say is basically like don't feel bad if you do misplay, because like everyone misplays, even like people like I misplay all the time, and I played like thousands of games, right? So like I think it's just good to keep in mind, like I keep a healthy attitude towards it, like look for opportunities for improvement, but don't get like too don't like try to like internalize it, basically what I'm saying. No, I learned a lot. I didn't feel ashamed. Hearing the breakdown was very insightful. Okay, I'm glad I was able to kind of keep it constructive. That was kind of my goal. Aurora, I'm tired of your mind games. My hope can only last so long. Well, you can go check out our spoiler this Thursday. It's going to be very exciting. So we worked pretty hard on it. So if you want to go check that out, we will probably have the video up shortly, probably after tonight or something like that, and then we can do like the premiere and whatever. But yeah, I'm glad that at least the Marlin gameplay review was kind of constructive. So pretty good. Give us the hate too long. Yeah, there's some funny stuff coming up. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, anyways, thank you all again for stopping by chat. I hope this was kind of like a fun, insightful stream. It's good to like review games that are not your own, just so you get like a little bit more constructive feedback out of it. I think it's pretty valuable. But yeah, thank you all for stopping by. Hope you all enjoyed. I'm probably gonna go cut out there and just Farflight Bow 2.0. We can only hope. I think we need another UPF bow to make Marlin viable in UPF. Totally, 100% agree with you. But yeah, anyways, I've been streaming for 3 hours. I'm pretty tired. I'm gonna go catch a little bit of a break. I will probably see y'all Wednesday for like another stream. I don't know exactly. I think we're gonna be playing this deck list actually, which is kind of like a little bit of a preview. But yeah, thank you all for stopping by the stream. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next Wednesday.